भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Influence of natyasastra on Indian theatre इत्यस्मिन् विषये यत देशीय विचारसत्रं केरल विश्वविद्यालयस्य संस्कृत विभागेन आयोजितं भवति तस्य पञ्चमं सुदिनम् अद्य सर्वशास्त्रेषु अपि कृतभूरिपरिश्रमाः डॉक्टर आर.के. पाण्डे महाशयाः एव अध्यक्षपदम् अलङ्कुर्वन्ति इति कारणेन महान् प्रमोदः. ये साम्प्रतं केन्द्रीय संस्कृत विद्यालयस्य जयपुर परिसरे आचार्य पदम् अलङ्कुर्वन्ति. बहूनां ग्रन्थतल्लजानां प्रणेतारः भवन्ति एते महाभागाः, सुविदिताः एव. एते अस्माकं सौभाग्यवशात् अत्र समुपस्थिताः वर्तन्ते. भवतां सान्निध्येन वयं सर्वेपि नितरां तुष्यामः. महोदय वयम् अस्माकं सर्वेषामपि पक्षतः स्वागतकुसुमानि मया वितीर्यन्ते. स्वागतं महाभागाः, स्वागतम्. परं विश्वभारती कोलकाता विश्वभारती विश्वविद्यालयः तु विश्वविश्रुतः एव. तत्र संस्कृत पाली प्राकृत विभागस्य अध्यक्ष पदवीम् अलङ्कुर्वन्ति आचार्याः डॉक्टर अरुण रंजन मिश्रा महाशयाः. येषां ग्रन्थाः काव्यानि च नितरां प्रसिद्धानि. നമ്മൾ എല്ലാവരും ഈ രണ്ട് പ്രമുഖന്മാരായിട്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാരെ കുറിച്ചും നമ്മൾ വളരെ കേട്ടിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്. അത്രമാത്രം പ്രഗത്ഭന്മാരായിട്ടുള്ള രണ്ട് മഹത് വ്യക്തികള്, ഒപ്പം മുരളി മാധവ മാഷിന്റെ ഒക്കെ സാന്നിധ്യം ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു ദിവസത്തെ വളരെ ധന്യമാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. പണ്ഡിത ശ്രേഷ്ഠേഭ്യഃ മഹോദയേഭ്യഃ സ്വാഗതം व्याहरामि. स्वागतं महाभागा. परमत्र अस्माकं डॉक्टर पी.सी. मुरलीमाधवन महाभागाः समुपस्थिताः वर्तन्ते. अस्मादृशानां सर्वेषामपि मार्गदर्शनं कुर्वन्ति एते महाभागाः सततं. डायरेक्टर इन चीफ Kandallur Shalai Institute for Higher Education and Research in Indian Wisdom. एते महाभागाः राष्ट्रीय संस्कृत संस्थानस्य पूर्वभूत आचार्याः, कालडी श्री शंकराचार्य विश्वविद्यालयस्य साहित्य विभागस्य अध्यक्षाः अपि आसन्. एते महाभागाः संस्कृत कार्यक्षेत्रे एतेषां सजीवं सान्निध्यं योगदानं च स्मर्तव्यमेव. महोदयेभ्यः अपि स्वागतं व्याहरामि, सप्रश्रयं स्वागतं व्याहरामि. अत्र स्वीयं विषयं मण्डयितुमत्र समुपस्थितः डॉक्टर कण्णन परमेश्वरन महाशयः, डायरेक्टर SNA कूडियाट्टम केंद्र and कथकली इति कथाकेलिः इति केरलीयं नाट्यरूपमस्ति. तत्र एतस्य गभीरम् अध्ययनं प्रचलति। सः तत्र संशोधनकार्याणि अपि कुर्वन् अस्ति। विभिन्न शोधनानि एवं अयं महाभागः तु पूर्वोक्त केन्द्रस्य सञ्चालकः निदेशकः च इति बहवः जानन्ति एव। महोदयाय अपि स्वागतं व्याहरामि। परम् अस्माकं मार्गदर्शकाः बहवः उपस्थिताः सन्ति, माधवन् माष् प्रभृतयः। तेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः अपि स्वागतं वितीर्य संस्कृत बान्धवानामपि कृते स्वागतं उक्त्वा कार्यनिर्वहणार्थम् अस्य सञ्चालनार्थं प्रोफेसर् आर्.के. पाण्डे महाभागं सादरं सविनयम् आमन्त्रयामि। धन्यवादः।
नमो नमः। या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला, या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला, या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता, या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा, या श्वेतपद्मासना, या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता, सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा, निःशेषजाड्यापहा। स्वागतम् अत्र भवतां समेषाम्। अद्य अस्य ज्ञानसत्रस्य पंचमः दिवसः वर्तते। अथ च अस्माकम् उत्तरभारते अद्य वसन्तपञ्चम्याः कश्चन महान् महोत्सवः प्रवर्तते। अतः विदुषां समेषां कृते आदौ वसन्तपञ्चम्याः शुभकामनाः दीयन्ते। वसन्तपञ्चम्याः अवसरे ये खलु विद्वांसः अत्र आभासपटल माध्यमेन अत्र समुपस्थिताः सन्ति, तेषाम् अभिनन्दनं करोमि। अथ च भूयो भूयः सर्वेषां कृते धन्यवादान् वितरामि। मान्यः, यथा अद्य पंचम दिवसः अस्य सत्रस्य वर्तते। पंच दिवसेभ्यः अनवरतम् अयं कार्यक्रमः प्रचलन् वर्तते। तर्हि तथैव अत्र पंचमे दिवसे अद्य ये त्रयः वक्तारः सन्ति अस्माकं सत्रस्य, तेषु आचार्याः अरुणरञ्जन मिश्र महोदयाः सन्ति अन्यतमाः। तेषां वैदुष्यं, तेषां कवित्वं, तेषां सारल्यं, तेषां व्यवहारः सर्वत्र प्रसिद्धः एव वर्तते। ते अस्माकम् अग्रजाः मित्रमणयः। तेषां श्रीचरणेषु प्रणिपत्य अहं तेषां स्वागतं करोमि। तथैव आचार्याः पी.सी. मुरली माधवन महोदयाः, ते वस्तुतः गुरूणामपि गुरवः। तेषां नानाग्रन्थानाम् अध्ययनेन वयम् आत्मपरिष्कारं कुर्मः। ते वस्तुतः साहित्यशास्त्रज्ञाः, किन्तु नैकशास्त्रविशारदाः। विशिष्य कलासु नाट्यशास्त्रे च तेषां वैदुष्यं समग्रेपि विश्वस्मिन्नपि विश्वे प्रसिद्धं वर्तते। अहं तेषामपि श्रीचरणेषु प्रणिपत्य भूयो भूयः तेषाम् अभिनन्दनं करोमि। तथैव अस्माकं मित्रमणयः आचार्याः परमेश्वर कन्नन महोदयाः वर्तन्ते। तेषामपि अहम् अत्र स्वागतं करोमि। अन्ये ये ज्येष्ठाः वरिष्ठाः गरिष्ठाश्च विद्वांसः अत्र वर्तन्ते। पी.के. माधवन महोदयाः, एम.ई. नटेशन महोदयाः, मनोरंजन साहू, रवींद्रनाथ मेनन, ऐश्वर्या, सी.एन. विजय कुमारी, अन्य विभागीयाः ये सदस्याः च श्रोत्री सुधीयः ये अत्र अस्मिन् पटले उपस्थिताः सन्ति। तेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः वसंत पंचम्याः शुभकामना दीयन्ते। अथ च भूयो भूयः तेषां स्वागतम् अहं करोमि। वस्तुतः यथा अद्य वसंत पंचमी भगवत्याः सरस्वत्याः अवतार दिनं वर्तते, तथैव अयम् अस्माकं यः सत्रयज्ञः प्रवर्तते तादृश एव वर्तते। इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ नाट्यशास्त्र ऑन इंडियन थिएटर, भारतीय रंगमंचे नाट्यशास्त्रस्य प्रभावः इति वर्तते। अस्य विषयः अयम् अतीव गभीरः वर्तते, अतीव प्रसृतः वर्तते। यतोहि न केवलम् अस्माकं संस्कृत साहित्ये संस्कृत रंगमंचस्य संस्कृत रंगमंचः विद्यते, अपितु अस्माकं याः लोककलाः सन्ति, लोकनाट्यानि यानि सन्ति, अथ च विदेशेष्वपि पाश्चात्य देशेष्वपि याः कलाः सन्ति तत्र सर्वत्र नाट्यशास्त्रस्य प्रभावः वर्तते एव। अतः किमपि विलम्बम् अकृत्वा अहं सर्वप्रथमम् आचार्यान् अरुणरञ्जन मिश्र महोदयान् व्याख्यानेन अस्मान् सर्वान् उपकर्तुं प्रार्थयामि। तेषां विषयः वर्तते भरताज फिलॉसफी ऑफ जॉय एंड ब्लिस थ्रू नाट्य। एवं एतादृशः विषयः वर्तते। नाट्यानुसारेण आनन्दस्य या भूमिका वर्तते तत्र रसानुभूतिम् आश्रित्य ते वदिष्यन्ति। अतः सश्रद्धं प्रणम्य अहं तान् निवेदयामि यत् ते स्वीयं शोधपत्रं पठन्तु, स्वव्याख्यानेन अस्मान् सर्वान् कृतार्थीकुर्वन्तु इति।
धन्यवादाः खण्डे महोदयाः। ओम सुधा समुद्रांत हृदयमणि द्वीप संगृह संगूढ़ बिल्वाटवी मध्य कल्पद्यमा कल्प कादंब कंतार वासप्रिये कृति वासप्रिये सर्वलोकप्रिये देवी तुभ्यं नमो देवी तुभ्यं नमो देवी तुभ्यं नमः। नमः शारदाई मानसे रमतां नित्यं सर्व शुक्ला सरस्वती। I am hugely indebted to Professor Murli Madhavanji. He has been kind enough in inviting me to Kaladi several times. He also referred my name to this podium. I am very much satisfied that in South, the people like Unni Krishnanji, Vijay Kumarji, and all others also love me a lot. I do not know whether I am worthy enough to their expectations, but well, I have taken an extraordinary topic, the bliss and joy in natyasastra. What I wish to say is that Bharata has taken enough care to protect joy and bliss in his natya, besides the advices for delineating various kinds of rasas. Rasa is the core element, and all other advices to protect joy and bliss are just fortifying that core element. Thus, all the advices for joy and bliss are just a kind of fortification, as I discovered in Natyasastra. He said that Nana Bhavartha Sampanna Sthai Sattvavicharinah Puspavakirna Kartabhya Kavyeshu hi Rasa Budhihi. Clearly he says that Rasaha Puspavakirna Kartabhya. So, Puspanam Nirjaranam Bhavatyatra, my joy and bliss. And in several ways, he wishes to protect that kind of joy and bliss. I will give some examples also. For example, all these are now followed knowingly or unknowingly in our modern drama and modern cinema. He says in chapter 16, he says the 36 type of types of lakshanas. There, one madhurya lakshana is there. Madhurya is not guna there. Madhurya is a lakshana. And he rightly says, the sentences, those sentences are sweet, which do not create any annoyance in the mind of audience, even if repeated once and again, once and again. Therefore, a writer has to use those sentences and an actor has to utter those sentences. The sentences which are sweet, they only provide joy to the audience. Bahuso yat srutam vakyam uktam vapi punah punah nodvejayati jasmadhi tan madhuryam iti dhruvam. And not only that, since there is a huge chance that audience will be dissatisfied, depressed, rather sad, seeing war on the stage, loss of kingdom, death on the stage, and attacking of a fort, all those things. He advises not to show those things directly on stage, rather through pravesaka they may be hinted, suggested. So in the 18th chapter he says, Yuddham Rajya Vranso Maranam Nagaroparodhanam Chaiva Pratyakhyani tu Nanke Pravesakaihi Samvidhayani. And not only that, he says, Anke Pravesake cha Prakaranam Asritya Natake Vapi, whether in Prakarana or in Nataka. Even in Anka or Pravesaka also, you cannot show the killing. Na badhaha kartavyah syad jo abhyudayi nayakah khyatah. A nayaka who is abhyudayi, his killing should not be shown. Whether in Prakarana or in Nataka, even indirectly. However, all these things are violated, we know, in modern days. We see more killings, more violence on the screen, whether in drama or in cinema. However, Bharata's purpose was quite right, that if you show these things, the extreme things which really negatively impact the mind of audience, they should be avoided. And in this way, we understand that Bharata has a mission, and that mission is to give joy. Therefore, bliss and joy in natyasastra is a very fortifying element surrounding the all notion of rasa. Let us come to bliss first of all. Bliss. Bliss has been called as Visranti or Ananda by Bharata in different places of natyasastra. We all know Dukhartanam, Samartanam, Sokartanam, Tapasvinam, Visranti Jananam Kale Natyam Etad Bhavishyati. So this Visranti is nothing but bliss. Only bliss can save people who are Dukharta, Sramartha, Sokartha. And therefore, Visranti is the whole aim of all dramatic activities. And moreover, he also upholds all Sukham Ganam Devastuti Abhinamditam. He connects bliss with the prayers and praises to the gods. And hence, in different places, he has advised to undertake auspicious activities in the total gamut of this natya. And since we have a common idea that through dance and through music, people become happy. He allows that, and not only allows, he also instructs very minutely what to do and what not to do in the case of nritya and gita. And one thing he also wants, that too much of dance or music is also not good. They rather ward of all blissful elements from the presentation. Therefore, their ati prasanga should be avoided, overuse should be avoided, overuse of nritya and gita, and all those badya, etc. Karyo nati prasangotra nritya gita vidhim prati gite badye cha nritye cha pravritte ati prasangatah. Sometimes we see in a cinema that is musical by nature. Even we have also heard cinemas using the word musical. Therefore, music has a, if music has a stronger role than the plot and story, then also it is not good. So ati prasanga jatah. Why? Khedo bhavet prayuktrunam prekshakanam tathaiva cha. Both natas and audience, even the director, they all get tired with too much utilization of music or dance. And then what will happen? Khinnanam rasabhavesu spastata nopajayate. If they are tired of those music and all those things, then the aswad of rasa becomes blurred. Now here we get a hint that Bharata had a clear-cut provision for protecting rasa by fortifying it through all the elements of bliss and joy. And the things which violate all those laws of bliss and joy are to be avoided. That has been said by him once and again. By protecting bliss and joy, he protects rasa, because rasa is the supreme element in natya. Nahi rasadrute kaschid arthah pravartatu, we all know. We can remember Abhigyan Sakuntalam, Act 5, where it is being said, Ramyani Vikhya Madhuranscha Nisamya Sabdan Parjitsuko Bhavati Jat Sukhitopi Jantuhu Tatchetasa Smarti Nunam Abodha Purvam Bhavastirani Jananantara Sahridani. So a beautiful thing takes us to other baths. It gives a kind of a temporary transmigration of the soul to a different parlance, and there he enjoys himself. Although it seems that at times from this sentence it seems that beautiful things first of all depresses a man, because that is not achievable, but then it takes to the bhavas of other baths which are stored in the heart of a man in this birth. And through bhava and abhinaya, bhavabhinaya, bhavasya abhinaya, bhavanam abhinaya, these thai bhavas are enjoyed. Therefore, these bhavabhinayas also bring in all those elements of bliss, and then only we feel we enjoy the rasa in natya. Bhavabhinaya sambandhan sthai bhavan tatha buddha aswadayanti manasa. Manasa aswadanam is bliss here. Tasman natya rasa snuta. This bhava and rasa, they are interdependent, and they both are also to be protected. Although bhava protects all the interests of rasa, and just as we assemble many kinds of food or we mix of many types of vegetables for a particular dish, which gives a different taste, and that is rasa. So also, this swaduta in natya or poetry comes through the mixture of many things. In many places, he has given respect to the outer elements that beautify the whole atmosphere and the whole notion of drama. न भाव रसहीनोस्ति, रसो न भाव रसवर्जित, न भावहीनोस्ति रसः, न भावो रसवर्जितः, परस्पर कृता सिद्धि तयोः अभिनये भवेत्। व्यंजन औषधि संयोग यथान्नम स्वादुताम नयेत्, एवं भावा रसाश्चैव भावयन्ति परस्परम। And moreover, यथा बीजात् भवेद् वृक्षो, वृक्षात् पुष्पम फलम यथा, तथा मूलम रसा सर्वे तेभ्यो भावा व्यवस्थिताः. So centrality of rasa is there, but then bhava and other outer and inner elements that fortify that central aspect, rasa, are also taken into consideration for protection and care. We all remember Bhavaguti, for who has propagated a theory that Karuna is the central rasa and all other rasas ensues from that. However, he seems to have become different in opinion from Bharata, because Bharata thinks that it is Shanta which is the central rasa. All other things comes out from Shanta and get into Shanta. And this Shanta is nothing but bliss. All that gives us joy because it has come out of bliss. Without the Shantata element in any object, we cannot get bliss. Oh yes, temporary joy can be attained. About joy will come after a moment. He says in chapter 6, अथ शांतो नाम समस्थायी भावात्मको मुख्य प्रवर्तकः, सतु तत्वज्ञान वैराग्याशय शुद्ध्यादि विभावैः समुत्पद्यते. And he also very categorically defines this Shanta, and we can also take it to understand his bliss. Bliss is nothing but a state devoid of both sukha and dukkha. It is like moksha concept of the Naiyayikas. Na yatra dukkham, na sukham, na dveso, napi matsarah, samah sarvesu bhutesu, sah santah prathito rasah. And what happens to other rasas? Swam nimittam asadya santad bhava pravartate. Their sthai bhavas come out when they get their own occasion, nimitta. Puna nimitta paye, when the purpose is achieved, sante eva upaliyate. They all get into that santa, get mingled into santa. Therefore, Bharata accepts the centrality of santa, and all bhavas and rasas come out of it, and when their purpose is served, attained, they also get into it. In this way, we can understand his concept of bliss at par with his concept of Shanta. Therefore, bliss is the highest value at par with rasa. Through aswada only we get that bliss. Perhaps that aswada is bliss itself. And in many places, he has also presented the effect of bliss. In chapter 7, he says, Harsut Phulla Kapolam Sanu Smarnad Apanga Visrutasram romancha gatram anibhrutam anandam ananda samudbhavam bhavati. All these happen when one gets the bliss, when one enjoys the rasa. So harsotpula kapulatvam will come, then anusmarana purvaka apanga visrutat asrujharam will come, shedding tears, automatic shedding of tear will come. Then romancha, bristling in the body, romancha gatra, and all those things. We all know he has also discussed in the same adhyaya, chapter 7, about the sattvika bhavas, stambha, svedotha. All these also come near to the feeling of bliss. And as I understood in the Lakshana chapter, chapter 16, he has utilized all those lakshanas to enhance the beauty, quality, and bliss. There are some lakshanas which directly connect to the element of bliss. Suppose udatta is a lakshana in chapter 16. There it is shown as being helpful to creating bliss. Anekartha vaisishtyairjata suktaihi saustava sanjuktaihi upetam ati chitrarthaihi udatam tatcha kirtyate. So chitrartha, beauty of varied meanings or multiplicity of meanings, which is called in modern dramaturgy, multiplicity of meaning. Then suktaihi, the wise sayings in that, saustava sanjuktaihi, endowed with beauty. All those things make a lakshana called udatta that enhances the blissfulness of what is going on the stage. Similarly, another lakshana is also there. All the lakshanas do the same thing, but some are directly and very overtly, very ostensibly show it. Kanti, another lakshana is kanti. Janmanaha srotra visayam alhadayati hi induvat. Kanti is a lakshana which makes the heart delighted, just as a full moon delights the heart. Leela dyarthopapannang ba tang kantim kavayo viduhu. Leela ityadi. Leela is a technical word. It will also come, perhaps in my talk, it will come afterwards. So Leela the artha, yuktatva is also there in the case of kanti, and all these also give the sense of bliss in the heart of audience. Ananda, the word, as I said, he utters. Vishranti he has already said in different places, and the word Ananda also comes for bliss in many places. In chapter 19, he says, Samagama tatharthanam anandah parikirtitah. He defines bliss. What is Ananda? Samagavah tata arthanam. Artha is intended meaning, intended object. The audience expects something, and if he all of a sudden gets it from the action of the nata, then that generates a bliss, supreme bliss in his heart, and that is called Ananda. And it can be connected to different incidents of various dramas, and it is more understood in Srungara dramas, of course, but in all kinds of drama we can get it. Multiplicity of meaning, and getting those meanings in heart directly from the stage. And beauty and ornaments of beautiful women also generate a great bliss in the heart of audience. In we can say in chapter 21, Bharata has very beautiful verses, rather carikas for that. Ragantara vikalpotha shobhanena adhikojvalah mugdhanang sundarinang cha मुक्ता भासित शोभनाः सुरक्ता वापि दन्ताः स्युः Padma Pallava Ranjana. Please look into the words. Padma Pallava Ranjana. All these are nothing but verbal manifestation of bliss. Asmaragod Dutitah Syadadhara Pallava Prabha. Vilasascha Bhavettasam Sabibhranta Nirikshitam. Muktavali Byala Panktir Manjari Ratna Malika. Ratnavali Sutrakamcha Gayam Kantha Vibhushanam. Dvisarad द्विसरः त्रिसरश्चैव चतुस्सरः सरकमेव च तथा शृंखलिका चैव भवेत् कंठ विभूषणम् अंगदं बलयं चैव बाहुमूल विभूषणम्. So he divides the beauty of women into two. One is the internal beauty, the luster and all other features which are natural to beautiful women, and also beauty arising out of the external ornaments. And all these creates a pleasing sensation which he calls ananda, and that is the beauty, and they only enhance the enjoyment of rasaswadana. And when we said about their natural ornaments, natural beauty, Bharata has collected the tradition of natural beauty in women, not only the alankaras that are external, but there are alankaras which are internal to them. And what are those internal alankaras? Leela, Vilasa, Vichiti, etc. In chapter 22, he describes them very beautifully. They all generate bliss. Just one example of Leela we'll take. About Leela I was just saying before. This moment, bag angalankaraihi sistaihi priti prayojitaihi madhuraihi ishtajanasya anukriti lila gyaya prayogagyi. So ishtajana is to be imitated, the loved one is to be imitated through bag, through alankara, and through the expression of priti in a shista way. That becomes lila, and that also brings in bliss to the context of what is going on the stage. Moreover, he also goes more external than the outer alankaras also. They are technically called Uddipana Vibhava. They have also a great role in projecting and protecting bliss. In chapter 25, for example, in many places they are there. I will just give one karika. Kadamba Nipakutajehi, Sadbalehi, Sandra Gopakehi, Meghvatei, Sukhasparseihi, Prabrut Kalam Pradarsayet. So, how to show the end of autumnal season, end of summer season, that is being said beautifully. Kadamba and all those things will come, and they also gives a feeling of sensation of bliss, we can say. And projecting nature according to the sukha and dukkha of the characters has been done in many places. That way he gives different kinds of advices. I will give just one example from chapter 25. Etan rutun arthavasat darsayedhi rasanugan sukhinastu sukhopetan dukkharthan dukkha sanjutan. So in different rutus also, in different seasons also, he will show that season to connect it to the artha, to the inner feelings of the characters who are happy or unhappy. He will connect them to the seasons, different kinds of seasons. And there is another Abhipraya Lakshana in chapter 16. And here and there also, he says that this bliss is nothing but a kind of heart-touching element. Lokasya hridaya grahi. Abhuta purvo jo arthah sadrishyat parikalpitah. lokasya hridayagrahi so abhipraya iti smritah. All the lakshanas, 36 lakshanas enhance bliss, but these are which directly touch the heart. They are very directly said about by Bharata. Bharata uses different words for joy. As we promised that we'll say about bliss and joy. For a moment, let us dwell upon joy. Vinoda, Harsha, Tosa, all these words are used by him for joy. And in chapter 1 itself, we know that Vinoda Karanam Loke Natyametad Bhavishyati, Vinoda Jananam Loke Natyametad Bhavishyati. He says all those things. So Vinoda is a secondary target, we can say. This is the primary target, and Vinoda is a secondary target. Bharata has found Nirgita of 7 types, which give this Vinoda, joy, even to the demons. For generating these Nirgitas, he has 7 types, and here all the demons, gods, and demigods, human beings, all are tushta by this. And we can give some of them: Parighattana, Sanghotana, Marga Sarita, Gitaka, Vardhamana, and Utthapaka. All these give Tosa, Santosa, and all those things. I'm not going into them. There are 4 verses with me now in front of me, but let me skip to some other things. External treatment of Sringara Rasa has been more taken care of by Bharata because they give direct joy. Rutu Malyalankarihi Priyajana Gandharva Kavya Sevabhi Upavana Gamana Biharihi Sringara Rasaha Samudbhavati. Clear. So Sringara Rasa has to be enhanced, to be fortified with these things. Rutu, Malya, Alankara, Priyajana, Gandharva Vidya, Seva, Kavya Seva, all those things will happen on stage. Upavana Gamana, Bihara, all these things. Nayana Vadana Prasadehi. Very beautiful and poetic diction he has utilized. Nayana Vadana Prasadehi, Smita Madhura Bacho Dhruti Pramodeischa. Pramoda word is there for joy. Madhureischa Anga Biharehi Tasya Abhinaya Prayuktavya. So in this way we should utilize Abhinaya on stage to bring in the joy in the heart of our audience. And 3 types of Hasya also, he says, all the types of Rasa give us bliss, no doubt. But Sringara and Hasya are more direct, and especially in the context of joy, I will prefer to speak on Hasya. Hasya sthanani jani syu karyotpannani natake uttama adhama madhyanam evam tani prayoje. 3 kinds of Hasya, he says. And what is that Hasya? Parachesta anukaranat, mimicry of others, by humorously imitating others. Parachesta anukaranat hasaha samupajayate smita hasati hasiteihi abhineya saha panditeihi aprape prapiva labdhe arthe priya samagame vapi hridaya manoratha labhe harsah. He uses harsha here for joy. Hridaya manoratha labhe harsah sanjayate punsam. Nayana vadana prasada priya bhasalinganeischa romanchaihi lalitaihi anga bihareihi svedadyehi abhinayastasya. All these things, lalita, angahara, etc. Anga bihara is angahara actually. And Nayana vadana prasada, that beam prasada, the Nayana and vadana, all those things, priya bhasa, they all bring joy to us. And in the discussion of Rasadrushti, chapter 8, Bharata hints about Kanta Drushti. That is also helpful in Sringara, he says. And we can say it helps both bliss and joy. Harsa, because he uses Harsa, so I am bringing it in the section of joy. Harsa Prasada Janita Kanta Atyartha Samanmaya Matha Samanmatha Sa Bhrukhepa Katakyacha Sringare Drishtirishyate. So this is a kind of Kanta Drushti which facilitates the enjoyment of Sringara. And moreover, Anga, Vakya, Nepatya Janita Hasya, they also bring joy. Chapter 12, verse 138. And use of different charis also in chapter 12. He has specified the external objects which create a different kind of beauty, and they also bring in joy. Hridyair gandhais tatha vastrei alankaris cha bhusite. All these things give a full feel-good sensation. In modern times also, garment and ornaments take a prominent position in our dramas and cinemas. That is here. Hridyair gandhais tatha vastrei alankaris cha bhusitah nana pushpa sugandhabhi malabhi samalankritah gachet sa lalitaihi padaihi atikranta sthitaistada tatha saustava sanjuktei layatala vasanugeihi. An actor will go. Chari is just a gate, just a movement on stage, and he is very detailed. Bharati is very detailed in advising how the chari is to be effected on stage. And another lakshana is there, dakhinya, called dakhinya. That also occurs in a smiling character who generates laughter in other characters on stage, and naturally audience will also laugh or smile. And this kind of thing also, his amusing gestures and sentences are also called dakhinya. Hristaihi prasanna vadanaihi Jatparasya anuvartanam kriyate vakya chestabhihi tat dakhinyam iti smrutam. Here also we get imitation, but here it is a kind of a broader kind of thing. It is we can say the greater kind of thing. Uttama kind of hasya is being presented through dakhinya. And another is priyokti. Priyokti is also a lakshana where a happy character expresses joy and respect for his elders. Chapter 16, verse 41. And 13 angas are there in Bithi. They are also similarly helpful in joy, creating joy in audience. Just some of them is are Nalika, which is a kind of prohelika, we can say conundrum, and Bakeli, which is a kind of question and answer that generates laughter. And prapancha also, characters speak to each other but their dialogues do not match. That is prapancha. And trigata also is there, where they use the sentences of Shruti but it has different meaning on stage. And
so please,
okay, I am coming to the last part.
Yes, sir.
There are many other things are there. Bharata has said a lot of things, and he has a very big compendium on dramaturgy. But what is the duty of audience towards this joy and bliss? He says, just I will utter two verses and end up. Kinchit sisto raso hasyo nrutyadbhir jatte yujyate smitena sah pratigrahya prekshakair nityamevacha. Prekshakaha, the audience, they will accept it with laughter when sisto hasya rasa is presented by the natas. Kinchid aspasta hasyam jat tatha vachanamevacha, where hasya is aspasta, there ardha hasena tadgrahyam. So there is also a responsibility of audience. They will laugh in a half way. So in that way they will accept express their joy. So in this way, as I feel, Bharata has two kinds of delightful things. Their joy and bliss that fortify the centrality of Natya, that is Rasa. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak a few words here on natyasastra. There are great stalwarts in this field like Professor R.V. Tripathi, etc. And I am very much unfortunate that I couldn't listen to them because nowadays we are after our exam works and different works in the university, no time at all. There is great time crunch now. Thank you very much. Thank you, sirs. Namaste. Vande Sanskrita Mataram.
Thank you very much, Professor Misra. You have presented a very important research paper, and you have, I think, covered all the theories described by Bharat Muni, theory of Bhav, Ras, Lakshanaj, Alankaraj, and Sant Ras theory, etc. So we are very much thankful to you. Now I invite Acharyan Professor PC Murli Madhavan Mahodayan. ये खलु येषां जीवनं वस्तुतः विद्या साधनायां नाट्य साधनायां गच्छति ते अहर्निशं शास्त्रं पठन्ति पाठयन्ति तदेव जीवन्ति तेषां हृत्कमले तदेव स्फुरति तादृशान् वरिष्ठान् राष्ट्रस्य विदुषः पीसी मुरली माधवन महोदयान् अहं प्रार्थये यत् ते स्वीयैः अमृतवचोभिः अस्मान् सर्वान् कृतार्थी कुर्वन्तु इति। प्रोफेसर पीसी मुरली माधवन महोदय।
I think he is unavailable.
Oh. So now I think he is coming or not.
Murali Madhavan. महोदय कण्णं महोदय आमन्त्रितम् उक्तम् इति मन्ये महोदयः औट् आफ्
So our speaker Professor Parameswaran Kannan Mahoday, I invite Professor Kannan Mahoday to present his paper on natyasastra in Kathakali. Professor Kannan.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
I thought my paper would be the third one. Thank you for inviting to give a small lecture based on Natyadharmi in Kathakali. Kathakali is a classical theater form of Kerala. We know that Kathakali has a history of more than 500 years, and its evolution definitely is based on the regional tradition. It is for sure that Kathakali did not form reading natyasastra. or learning Natyasastra, just like any other regional form of India. Kathakali also developed in the natural flow of the cultural activity of the region, just like any other classical and traditional forms in India. Because all traditional forms have their own regional tradition, regional history of tradition, growth, evolution. I'm sure, and I have heard from great masters like Manimadhava Chakyarashan and Amanur Madhava Chakyarashan, and all such great gurus have very clearly told me that it was not on the basis of Natyasastra. It is not on reading Natyasastra, learning Natyasastra. Our traditional forms were formed and developed. At the same time, at present, in 20th century, we started comparing the theories in Natyasastra with our performance. And we are seeing that the descriptions in Natyasastra and our practice have a lot of connection with each other. We saw that because all these regional forms were directly related, connected to our great tradition, which is live in various parts of our country. Not only in India, all over Asia, the same kind of tradition is even now practiced. If we go to Japan, we can see the No theater and kabuki. Even in China, we can see the Chinese opera. And in Cambodia, Java, Thailand. So all these places we can see similar kind of performances, which is having all the elements we are having in our traditional forms, in the classical forms existing in various parts of India. So this culture was common to all these Asian forms. And Natyasastra is a text which is compiling the tradition existing in this area. It is not on the other way, that the practitioners, they do not study Natyasastram as a text, but Natyasastram is the text which compiles the tradition existed all over India and all over Asia. That is why, and the greatness of our tradition is that there is a unity everywhere. As our Arun Ranjan sir mentioned, Lokasya Hridayagrahi. What a beautiful word. And that word Lokasya Hridayagrahi, that Hridayagrahi Rasam, that is the concept, that is the purpose of the performance for art forms all over in Asia, in all these Asian forms. That Hridayagrahi, what does it mean actually? It is not just when we are listening to a song, we are having joy, not that joy. That is fine, that is joy, that is the surface level of joy. Because of hearing, because of the Indriya, we are getting that joy. But Hridayagrahi means, I'm using that same word which Arun Ranjan sir mentioned, because that will make our paper have a continuity. And Hridayagrahi, because it is not just Indriyagrahi, it goes into Hridaya. It from Indriya, from seeing something beautiful, from hearing something beautiful, that is fine. We feel joy, but that is not rasa. When it goes deeper into our thought level, we are analyzing mananam, shravana, manana, nididhyasanam. That is the process, our traditional process. So after watching a performance, you should have something to do your mananam, that your reflection. You need to reflect upon what you have seen, what you have heard. Once you start reflecting, what you need to there should be some elements for you to reflect, for you to think again and again. For me, when I watched a performance of Padma Subramaniam Madam in Kottakkal many years back, in the early 90s, still when I remember that particular performance, still even after 20-25 years now, when I remember that performance, Hridayagrahi rasa increases in my heart. So how it was a very simple Malayalam song she enacted. Keshadipadam Tolunnen. Keshava Keshadipadam Tolunnen. Very simple music, but she presented in a so sublime manner, natyadharmi manner, so that it went deeply into my heart. Not just seeing, not just listening, but going deeper into my heart through my reflection. That reflection is the reason for rasa, and creating elements which make you reflect. And that process is called creation of rasa, or that is natyadharma. That is why Trailokyasya asya sarvasya natyam bhava anukirtanam. Bharata describes natyam as Trailokyasya asya sarvasya natyam bhava anukirtanam. Bhavasya anukirtanam natyam. Not just anukaranam. Not just anukaranam. Abhinavagupta later elaborates the meaning of anukirtanam as anukirtanam means once you get an idea, on that idea you are working inside your mind, with your imagination, and you creating your own new situation on the basis of what you have received. And that process is anukirtanam. In Balarama Bharatam, written by Balarama Varma, Maharaja, he has said, Bharatatvam means Bhavana Anubhavatvam Bharatatvam. Bhavana Anubhavatvam Bharatatvam. Bhavana means imagination. Anubhavatvam, you start imagining, and that imagination you have to experience. That jnanam should become vijnanam. Shankaracharya says, avagati paryandam jnatavyam. That it should become avagati. That you start thinking about it, you start imagining about it, and that imagination should become a part of you, internalized. That is bhavana anubhavatvam bharatatvam. Then only you can enact, and that enactment is called natyadharmi. That is not just lokadharmi, that is not just naturalistic way of presentation, that is natyadharmi way of presentation. You can see that only in natya. You cannot see that in day-to-day life. You can see that only in natya. That is natyadharmi. King Nala is presented in Kathakali in the form, many of you might be familiar to that form, green skin, and there will be chutti, white chutti, and big crown and costumes. If I do that on stage with all these forms as Kathakali performer, if I do that on stage, people would definitely appreciate that. Oh, very good, beautiful. But if I walk through road with this, no, that is not fine. So it happens only on stage. So that is why it is called Natya Dharmi. The purpose of Natya Dharmi is to give the elements for reflection, for mananam. Only through mananam you can experience rasa. The process of creating sthayi bhava, the process of creating sthayi bhava out of vibhava, anubhava, vyabhichari. That process is called rasa. That process is the reason for rasa. That is vibhava, anubhava, vyabhichari, samyogat, rasa nishpatti. So vibhava, the story element, anubhava, the various actions, your mudras, dance, song, percussion, all these medium, anubhava, vyabhichari, various emotions you are presenting. You are getting this from the stage. You are seeing when King Nala is there, you are seeing King Nala falls in love with Damayanti. You are seeing that. That storyline is vibhava. And when the actor is doing hand gestures and the singer is singing and the percussionist, all these elements are anubhava. And through anubhava, he is presenting various emotions. Listening to Damayanti, at first he feels, I am a king. Should I fall into a lady like that? Is it right? Is it dharma? Or is it adharma? He has doubt in his mind. Then sage Narada says, it is proper. Damayanti is your suitable bride. So no, she is proper to be your wife. So listening to Guru's word, he feels okay to start expressing his love for Damayanti. So all these are vyabhichari bhavas. And then he starts thinking about her. Many people have told about Damayanti. I don't know how she looks, but in my mind, my love is growing. All these various words he utters, and these are vyabhichari bhavas. So this vibhava, anubhava, vyabhichari bhavas, all these presented on stage, and a person is seeing this and receiving this. After receiving vibhava, anubhava, vyabhichari, in his mind, he is creating sthayi bhava through a process of reflection. It takes many years, days and years. After watching one performance, it will stay in his mind, and it will continue creating sthayi bhava in him. That sthayi bhava is Sringara or Rati. That process is called, is the reason for rasa. And for that reflection, the performance should be Natya Dharmi. That is the purpose of Natya Dharmi. Let us go to the definition of Natya Dharmi little bit, and then I think we have one more paper left. So I will finish by 12:30, definitely. Natya Dharmi, the definition of Natya Dharmi, how Bharata is giving the definition in Kakshya Pravarti Dharmi Vyanchakam chapter. He's giving the definition for Natya Dharmi. What is Natya Dharmi? Let us see that on the basis of the presentation of Kathakali. Ati Vakya Kriyopetam Ati Sattva Ati Bhavakam Leela Angahara Bhinayam Natya Lakshana Lakshitam Swara Alankara Samyuktam Aswastha Purushashrayam Yadidrisham Bhaven Natyam Natya Dharmi tu Sastra. This is the definition primarily he is giving, and then a lot of elaboration is there. If we have time, we will go to that collaboration. So, Ativakyam means exaggerated vakyam, exaggerated language. It is not common daily words, daily sentences we are using in performance, in Natyadharmi performance. If it is in naturalistic, realistic performance, what we are speaking would be just our daily conversation. We have the third wall theory. Then whatever happening in our house, in our room, or in a classroom, and you remove one wall and then allow people to watch it, and that is naturalistic. How it is happening? The director of the performance wants people to see that in naturalistic way. But in Natyadharmi, it is different. You do not want to see that exactly as it is performed, as it is happening in day-to-day life. That is why exaggerated language should be used. Poetic language should be used. This poetic language is used in performance not only in India. If we go to Shakespeare plays, we can see that he has used beautifully rendered poetic lines. It would be nice if you mute everybody. Then so Adivakyam, exaggerated sentence in Kathakali also, that kind of exaggerated language is used. Alambhavam manasini vahichalam handa, or like that, or kuvalaya vilochane bale bhaimi. So kuvalaya vilojane, you don't call like that to your beloved at home. You do that only on stage, only in Kathakali plays or in that kind of poetic situation. Otherwise, you never use that kind of embellished words. So that is Ativakyam, to make it different from daily. Even in our day-to-day life, when we want to exaggerate some aspect, this is what we are using. We are using our word in a different way other than our daily usage, other than our ordinary usage. So Ativakyam and Atikriya, not ordinary activities. For example, even in this story of Nala and Damayanti, when Nala wanted to give some message to Damayanti, he sent a hamsa, a bird who is speaking. That bird is speaking to Nala, and the bird is speaking to Damayanti as well. And that is not common in our naturalistic life. This is Natyadharmi. We never think that this is Natyadharmi because so much we believe that story. In Kudiyatam, before entering on stage, the actor says that Sosmi di manasa smarami. I believe myself that I am that character. And that belief in himself makes people also believe that he is that character. Like that, people believe these things, that it is true. They never think that this is Natyadharmi. Like Ravana lifting Mount Kailasa, that is not common. It might not happen. But we believe when we see that on stage. That is the power of Natyadharmi. Atikriya, which is not common, which is not natural in day-to-day life, that we are seeing on stage. Atisatvam atibhavakam. Atisatvam, as we said earlier, the exaggerated forms, even in Kathakali, in Kudiyatam, in all such forms. When we are doing demonstrations, our gurus insist that you should do something on your face. It should not be just ordinary face before entering on stage for demonstration. For demonstration, we are not using the exaggerated Kathakali makeup and costume, but our gurus say that you should do something. Maybe you make your eyes a little bit dark, or you just brighten your eyebrows like that, so that there should be some feeling of atisatvam, that different from your daily manner. It should be extra daily. Extra daily is the word used by Eugenio Barba to translate the word natyadharmi, extra daily. Atibhavakam. Atibhavakam means exaggerated emotions. The emotions are exaggerated when you are presenting emotions which is not very common. Then it is exaggerated emotions, atibhavakam. Not only showing it as we are using the word melodrama. The presentation of melodrama and adibhavagam is different. Melodrama, of course, that is also exaggeration is there, but here different kind of bhavas. For example, when when Arjuna is entering into heaven, going to heaven in Kalkevatham, in heaven, Urvashi comes to him, and Urvashi is asking him to be with her, and then he says no, he rejects. And that kind of emotion which is not common in our day-to-day life, when we are seeing some sublime, and that kind of enactment, that kind of presentation also is adibhavagam. And Leela Angahara Abhinayam. Leela means a lot of playful with songs and dance. Angaharam, technical presentation. And Natya Lakshana, and all these Leela and Angaharam, everything should be Natya Lakshana Lakshitam. It should be exactly as instructed in the tradition. That is Natya Lakshanam. According to the instructions of the tradition, it should be disciplined in the, for example, when I am presenting Kathakali, I should learn it. I should learn it with a guru. That is Natya Lakshana Lakshitam. I should discipline myself with a guru for some time. Then only I should present Kathakali. Similarly, all traditional forms, because the tradition has its own strength, and that strength is presented on stage, then only it is called Natya Lakshana Lakshitam. Swara Alankara Samyuktam, Swaram and Alankaram are used. Aswastha Purushashrayam, that is very important. Aswastha Purushashrayam. Swastham means the one who is rested in himself, that is Swastha, peaceful. Shantam. Earlier, Arun Ranchan Master said about the Shantam, so being rested in yourself. And Aswastha, here the actor is not Aswastha. Swastha means the one who himself. For example, I am Kannan, but I am presenting as Bhima on stage. Then I am not Kannan, I am Bhima on stage.
Yes.
And then that Bhima, seeing an incident in the forest, an elephant is fighting with a python. And then Bhima enacting as elephant. And then he enacting as python. Then a lion enters into that scene. Then that Bhima again becomes lion. So he is not swastha. Always he is moving from one character to another character. And that aspect is called the pakarnatam. And even that happens in a still different level in Kathakali. For example, when just maybe 2 or 3 minutes I will take and I will finish. Because I would like to explain this aspect, that's all. And then I'm not going much more. So when Bhima is presenting one song, Panchala Rajatanaye Pankajekshane Panchasayaka Nilaye, then the first mudra, Panchala Rajatanaye, Bhima is calling Draupadi, oh, the daughter of the king of Panchala. Panchala Raja Tanaye. He is Bhima and starting the conversation. When he says Panchalam, in that mudra, he is showing his respect to Panchala. To Panchala, the king of Panchala, who is the father of Draupadi, his father-in-law. And when he is showing Panchala Raja, then he is enacting Panchala Raja. He is not Bhima at that time, he is Panchala Raja. So not Swastha, he became Aswastha. That Bhima became Panchala Raja. And then looks up Draupadi, and at that time again he becomes Bhima back. Panchala Raja, then Tanaye. Then he is himself becoming Draupadi. Draupadi is there beside him, but he himself is showing Draupadi. You know, Aswastha Purushashraya, the one, that actor, and again in another sloka, he elaborates that, you know, there is a tripartite approach in natyasastra, Trimarga Pathati. In that Trimarga Pathati, he gives Shastra, and then he gives illustration, and then he gives stories. So these three things are there in natyasastra, we can see. And here he says, in another sloka, he says, when one person is enacting various roles, various characters, then again it is called Natyadharmi, like that. So I'm not going into that area. And when we compare this statement with Lokadharmi, it will be more clear. Swabhava Abhinaya Sthanam is the description for Lokadharmi. Swabhava Abhinaya. If I am on stage as Bhima, I will be enacting only myself on stage in Natyadharmi. Sorry, in Lokadharmi, in naturalistic way of enactment. Is it clear what I am saying? So in Lokadharmi way of enactment, in naturalistic way of enactment, you are presenting only yourself. You are swastha. That means in whatever character you are, you continue in the same character. So Nana Stri Purushashrayam, various female, male actors are necessary on stage because you need all the characters on stage for naturalistic presentation. But for Natyadharmi, for this extra daily presentation, only one actor can become various forms. For what purpose? For presenting anubhavas. Through the anubhava kriya, you are influencing the viewer. You are provoking the reflection of the viewer. And they are reflecting mananam. That mananam is happening. And through that, you are experiencing desa. Yadidrisham bhaven natyam, natyashastri, natyadharmi shastrata. I am not going deeper more because it is necessary. One more important paper is there. I thought my paper would be third one. And Murli Madhavan sir's paper is there. So if there is any question, I am ready to answer about this later. Thank you for inviting me, Unnikrishnan sir, Vijay Kumar sir, Vijay Kumar teacher. And with my humble salutations to everybody, I conclude here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Kannan. Actually, your paper was based on not only text, you performed Kathakali, and I am very much impressed. Actually, you have a great tradition of natyasastra and Lok Natyas also. So I thank again and again you.
Our great gurus like Manimadhava Chakyarashan and my guru Kalamantalam Vasuprashardiashan, and we have the tradition of Vayankada Kunjanair tradition. So all these traditions definitely enrich our experience. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Now, once again, I invite a great scholar, Professor P.C. Murli Madhavan sir, to present his paper on the journey of rasa from Drishya to Shravya through ages, a critique on Bharat concepts. So, Unni Krishna sir, please talk to Professor Murli Madhavan sir. I think there is any problem or network problem may be there.
Murli Madhav Mashe.
You may call him, I think.
महोदय सह महोदय प्रविष्टवान् अस्ति
वार्ता जाता वा तैः साकं दूरभाषं करोतु एकवारं
महोदयः अस्ति इदानीम् अस्ति
आगतः तेषां व्याख्यानं विना अस्माकम् अपूर्णता एव भविष्यति
सत्यं सत्यं भवतामपि भूमिका महती वर्तते
मम तु आगता अस्ति कदाचित् पीसी मुरली माधवन महोदयानां
मुरली माधवन महोदयः प्रविष्टवान् अस्ति
भूयः स्वागतं व्याहरामि
नमस्कार सर नमस्कार
ते किमर्थं तेषां विलम्बः
वीडियो ऑन करोतु मुरली माधव
अहं तेषां दर्शनम् इच्छामि
मुरली माधव महोदय वीडियो कृपया ऑन करोतु
सम्यक् न श्रूयते सम्यक्तया न श्रूयते।
मुरलीमाधवन् महोदयः इदानीं अन्य एक सिस्टम द्वारा प्रविशति। तावदभ्यन्तरे चर्चा अनुवर्ततां चर्चा एतस्मिन् विषये
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Namaskar.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can listen. We can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Voice is clear. Namaskar.
Thank you. You can hear me, is it not?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Arun Ranjan Mishra.
Namaste,
And Professor, my beloved friend, Professor R.K. Pandey, for your patience. Because I have tested your patience now. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. The chair of the session, my beloved friend and colleague, Professor R.K. Pandey, my predecessors who spoke at length, authentically on natyasastra, Professor Arun Ranjan Mishra ji, and also the beloved friend Dr. Kannan Parameswaran. The convener of this program, Professor Vijay Kumari, my beloved friend Dr. Unnikishan, other scholars, those who are participating in this learned assembly on this Zoom platform. I salute you all. I'm sorry that two of my systems went on strike, and I had to depend on another third one to talk to you. Now, without much delay and introduction, I am entering to my subject. I'm going to talk on the journey of Rasa from natyasastra, how Rasa had his journey from Natya, that is from Drishyakavya, and finally from by 9th and 10th century, how it has developed and how it became the soul of generally the soul of poetry, and how things are diluted and how things are concentrated. In some aspects, the theory became concentrated, and in some other aspects, it became diluted. So this journey, from the point of view of Bharata, I want to have a critique to present on the day. In Sanskrit poetics, a place of pedestal has been given to Rasa. The concept of Rasa, as we know it today, originated with the natyasastra of Bharata. But this concept has undergone a tremendous change since its original form, original formation. It has remained a core subject of constant discussion in Sanskrit poetics. And also, it has shown a really qualitative transformation from its original shape of natyasastra to its to the up-to-date doctrine of kavya rasa. From natya rasa, it became kavya rasa. Even the question of the number of rasas have never witnessed the unanimity, and modern additions have taken place into consideration by the later poeticians over and above the 8 rasas outlined by Bharata. So not only the concept of rasa, its characteristics of rasa, number of rasa also changed. It is not only the definition of rasa or the number of rasas which have attracted much of the speculations offered by Indian poeticians, but also the purpose and the necessity of rasa, as illustrated by Bharata in his masterpiece, have suffered a lot of diversions and digressions. This is what my main point. What in the beginning was spelled out to be the purpose of rasa by Bharata is indeed the subject matter of this essay, this presentation. But in the later periods of Sanskrit literary criticism, the debate on the purpose of rasa was confined to the question whether or not rasa is the soul of poetry. That was the question. But actually, the Bharata says, I want to quote that verses. I am searching for that. What Bharata speaks about the purpose of natya, the purpose of rasa, which is the main ingredient in natya sangraha. And he says, Uttamadhama madhyanam naranam karma samsayam hitopadesha jananam dhridi krida sukhadikrit edadreseshu bhaveshu sarva karma kriya swatha sarvopadesha jananam natyam loke bhavishyati dukhartanam samartanam shogartanam tapasvinam Vishrandi jananam kale natyamedad bhavishyati dharmyam yasasyam ayushyam hitam buddhi vivardhanam logopadesha jananam natyamedad bhavishyati. This is the very general and which encompasses all the people, whether it's uttama or madhyama or adhama, is not meant for any particular group. It is for the entire world. This type of purpose was put forth by Bharata in his Natyasastra in the first chapter. And this great, what we call the great target of Bharata has been narrowed to the extent possible. And it became an exercise, or rather an intellectual exercise of the scholars, those who do intensive work in Indian darshanas. For example, in Vedanta, it became Brahmananda Sahodara. So man's first philosophic and other speculation and thoughts are necessitated and brought into a kind of loose formation by the social and economic conditions surround him. That is natural. It happens like that. Each theory of philosophy or whatever, of science or whatever it may be, of literature, whatever it may be, it will be a vague, a general idea in its original stage, and it gradually develops and becomes, even in Nirta, you see, it starts as Nirta, then it becomes Nritya, and then it becomes very scientific, a classical dance and so many things like that. So it starts from in the initial stage, it is only something very general. And here, the social and economic conditions around him, but they are definitely sharpened and polished. That is what is happening in all definitions by the contemporary schools of thought. This is precisely true about the development of the concept of rasa. So this happens in rasa also. Originally, Bharata had thought about rasa in the context of natya alone. That is the thing. But the later poeticians, who were influenced and guided by their philosophical commitments, converted the simple and straightforward concept of rasa into something highly intellectual and metaphysical doctrine. It became unapproachable for the ordinary man as far as rasa theory is concerned. It is equated to the rasa, the Brahman bliss, the bliss of Brahman, the Brahmaswada Sahodara. So it is a direct brother of Brahmaswada. So it is highly became scientific and highly complicated, and it is very difficult to grasp for an ordinary person, from an ordinary connoisseur. Through centuries of discussions and deliberations, the theory of rasa now acquaints us with the general knowledge, general known conclusion that rasa is what Brahman is. After centuries of discussion, after Bharata, now what is the position? It is generally known a conclusion that rasa is what is Brahman is. Just as the yogins and sages experience the supreme pleasure of the knowledge of Brahman, similarly, the Sahridayas experience the supreme bliss of rasa through poetry, which remains dialectically indescribable, vachamagochara, and especially and essentially metaphysical. So this is what has happened. On account of this similarity, the realization of the pleasure of rasa is designated as Brahmaswada Sahodara. This is the latest idea about rasa, which was surprisingly, first of all, displayed by the great Abhinavaguptapada about 1,000 years back in 10th century. Disapproving Bharata's concept of rasa, actually it is a kind of disapproving the Bharata's approach, that Bharata's concept of rasa was repeated throughout the 10 centuries by the later day critics. In the words of Abhinavagupta, what he says, the pleasure derived from rasa is indeed different from the worldly pleasures. It remains unparalleled in so far as it crosses the barriers of memory, inference, and physical perception. This is the quotation of Abhinavagupta. It would not be out of place to assume that Abhinava matured this idea on the basis of views expressed by his predecessors, for we come across a similar idea expressed in a text attributed to Bharata Bhattanayaka, the predecessor of Abhinavagupta. He got this idea from Bhattanayaka and quoted by none else than Abhinavagupta himself. Mammada Bhatta, in his Kavya Prakasha, repeats the essential points of Abhinava's rasa doctrine by saying that Rasaswada is similar to Brahmaswada. The last but not the least word, the word on this doctrine to be found in Sahitya Darpana, wherein Vishwanatha has, after repeating the Abhinavagupta, had already proposed, emphatically added that it is only a blessed few. This is to be very categorically to be considered. The crux of the Sahitya Darpana statement, the Vishwanatha statement, that only a blessed few who are able to experience the alaugika pleasure derived from the rasa. Rasa became most unpopular because it can be appreciated only by a few, those who are intellectual, those who can brood over the subject, and those who can go deep. And only it became an intellectual exercise than it is an activity of mind, an activity of connoisseur. So the views expressed by Vishwanatha are the one generally accepted by the Sanskrit poeticians. Surprisingly, even Jagannatha Pandita also of that idea. Surprisingly, however, the salient features of rasa doctrine brought into light through the views quoted by, actually they quoted above, as I told you, are quite in contrast with the ones elaborated by Bharata in his Natyasastra. For example, the later poeticians emphasized that the pleasure derived from rasa is alaugika, whereas the kind of pleasure which Bharata has visualized and aimed at is quite laugika. It is not alaugika. The later doctrine of rasa explained that rasaswada belonged to the intellectual and rather spiritual arena. Because of the time constraint, I am not giving the quotations from the Natyasastra, the original Sanskrit expressions. Bharata, on the other hand, had found in rasa a medium. What is the idea of Bharata? Bharata, on the other hand, is not like what Abhinavutta said or Bhattanayaka told. It is not an intellectual exercise. It is not meant for a wise man, even for ordinary man. You know, people should have a common sense to understand the rasas, whether it is Sringara, Karuna, or Veera, or Raudra. Anybody can understand and anybody can relish it. So, in the still later period, it was thought that the rasa pleasure can be experienced by a few blessed people, whereas it is a common man who was to be the real beneficiary in Bharata's concept of Natya rasa. But as far as the concept of Natya rasa, according to Bharata, the real connoisseur is the ordinary man, not the intellectual person. So there is sufficient rationale to pursue as to why this total transformation took place in the history of rasa thought. It is quite evident that Bharata discusses rasa in the context of Natya. That is the stage presentation of the play in its totality. Rasam ആസ്വദിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ അത് നാട്യത്തിൽ കൂടെ വരണം എന്നാണ് ഭരതന്റെ കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്. രസത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള അറിവ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധാരണ കാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷേ അത് രസത്തിന്റെ ജ്ഞാനമാണ് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്, രസത്തിന്റെ അനുഭവമല്ല. തീ പൊള്ളുന്നതാണ് എന്നുള്ള ജ്ഞാനവും തീ പൊള്ളുന്നതും ഇത് രണ്ട് സംഗതികളാണ്. തീ പൊള്ളുന്നത് അനുഭവമാണ്, തീ പൊള്ളുന്നതാണ് എന്നുള്ള അറിവ് അത് ജ്ഞാനമാണ്. ഇതുപോലെയുള്ള ഡിഫറൻസ് ആണ് ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യത്തിലെയും ദൃശ്യകാവ്യത്തിലെയും രസത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് ഭരതൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. സോ ഈ കോൺസെപ്റ്റിനെയാണ് പിൽക്കാലത്ത് തകിടം മറിച്ചത് എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടുവന്നത്. By giving the status of rasa in a way directly attached to rasa, with the staging of plays and made it an instrument of stage presentation. So Bharata, what he has done, the stage presentation of the play in its totality, that is the samagrata, natya sangraham, that what he says. Rasa bhava hyabhinayaha dharmi vritti pravrittayaha, he says the what we call all the 11 or 13. There is two different opinions are there about natya sangraha. So anyway, that happens in totality. This never happens in Shravya Kavyas. It happens only in Natya. So the real Rasa Sakshatkara we can have only in Natya, not in Shravya Kavyas. Shravya Kavyatile നമുക്ക് രസാനുഭവം ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത് വർണ്ണനയുടെ മാധ്യമത്തിൽ കൂടെയാണ്. അതിനെ വർണ്ണിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിനെ വർണ്ണിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതിന്റെ ജ്ഞാനമാണ് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. മറ്റത് നേരിട്ടിട്ടാണ്. സാക്ഷാത്തായിട്ടുള്ള രസാനുഭവമാണ് നാടകങ്ങളിൽ ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നാടകാന്തം കവിത്വം എന്ന് വന്നത്. കവിത്വം പര്യവസാനിക്കുന്നത് രസം സാക്ഷാത്തായിട്ട് അനുഭവിപ്പിക്കാൻ. അവിടെ കവിനിബദ്ധ വക്താവ്, അതായത് കഥാപാത്രങ്ങൾ, അവര് നേരിട്ട് നമ്മൾ സഹൃദയനുമായി ഒരു അദ്വിതീയമായ അവസ്ഥ, ഒരു ഏകത്വ അവസ്ഥ വന്നു ചേരുകയും അങ്ങനെ ആ രസം അനുഭവിക്കുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So on the other hand, the later poeticians, through discussing rasa with the help of dramatical terminology, that is what they have done. They have done, the later poeticians and aestheticians like Anandavardhana, Mammada Bhatta, Abhinavagupta and such people, great stalwarts, what they have done, they used in Kavya Prakasha, you see 4 major rasa nirupanas we see in the 4th Ullasa. Ulpati, Nepri, Bhukri, and Vyakti by Lollada, Sri Sanguga, Bhattanayaka, and Abhinavagupta. They use the dramatic terminology. They use the dramaturgical terminology called Vibhava, Anubhava, Vibhajari, and like that for explaining rasa. But finally, when they explain the rasa in practical, in all practical sense, they go to Shravya Kavyas. They discuss Kumara Sambhava, they discuss that Raghuvamsha, they discuss Mahabharata and Ramayana. All these are Shravya Kavyas. They discuss on that. They never come to the level of presenting a Natya on the stage, and how stage and how Natya and how Natya Sangraha, they become directly instrumental to release the rasa, to have the rasa sakshatkara in a direct way that they never thought of. So, there are the huge discussions are going on this area. Now, I want to be very precise in this matter. So, using the grammatical terminology as introduced in the natyasastra, as is that the Vibhava, Anubhava, Vibhajari, Samyoga, Rasa Nishpati. So, Rasa Nishpati, when you want to explain, you have to depend upon Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhajari. These are the grammatical terminology. These are being used by the later rhetoricians, later Alangarikas like Mamada, Anandavardhana, Kavya Prakash, that Jagannatha Pandita, and such people, Abhinavagupta and such people. But they would explain it in the context of poetry alone. They never touch Natya. They never. We have seen the entire Dhunyalava. We have seen the entire Abhinav Bharati and Lochana, where he explains all these things about the soul of poetry, Prabandha Dhwani, and so many things, Prabandha Rasa, and so many things. But then they mainly depend upon, they exclusively they depend upon on the poetry alone, and only exceptionally in the context of staging of plays. In some 1 or 2 drama references we can see, but that are very, very few. But normally, all these rhetoricians in general, they depend upon Shravya Kavyas. Bharata's Natya was purported to be a source of relief and a diversion from day-to-day complexities of life faced by man. ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ ദൈനംദിനമായ സങ്കീർണത, അതിലുള്ള ഒരുപാട് ക്ലേശകരമായ അനുഭവങ്ങൾ, ഇതൊക്കെ സാധാരണ മനുഷ്യന് അവന് ജീവിതത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന എല്ലാ സങ്കീർണതകളെയും, എല്ലാ പ്രയാസങ്ങളെയും, എല്ലാ മാനസികമായുള്ള വിപരീത ഭാവങ്ങളെയും അതിനെയൊക്കെ അകറ്റാനും ജീവിതം സുഖകരമാക്കുന്നതിനും ജീവിതം വളരെ അനായാസേന നിർവഹിക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്നതിനും ജീവിതത്തിലെ നല്ല നല്ല നന്മകളെ ഉൾക്കൊള്ളുന്നതിനും പ്രപഞ്ചത്തിലെ നന്മകളെ അബ്സോർബ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനും അത് ആസ്വദിക്കുന്നതിനും അത് മറ്റുള്ളവർക്ക് പകർന്നു കൊടുക്കുന്നതിനും ഒക്കെ അത് പ്രധാനമായും ലക്ഷ്യഭൂതമാക്കിയിട്ടാണ് നാട്യം, ഭരതന്റെ നാട്യം പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നത്, നാട്യത്തിലെ രസം പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നത്. സോ ഹിയർ the Bharata's Natya was purported to be a source of relief and diversion from day-to-day complexities of life faced by man, which resulted in giving birth into various types of physical tensions, mental weariness, and all-round gloom and dismay. Natya was to be a wholesome sangraha, that what Bharata says, Natya Sangraha, of some constituents like theatre, acting, songs, music, rasa, percussion instruments like that, and the like. Obviously, rasa, as Bharata conceived, it was one of the many entities which together created a totality of Natya, which was meant to remove the worldly displeasures and sorrows. So, രസം അതിലെ മുഖ്യമായ ഘടകമാണെന്നേ ഉള്ളൂ, അല്ലാണ്ട് രസം മാത്രമല്ല. ഈ ആനന്ദത്തിന് കാവ്യ നാട്യത്തിൽ നിന്നുണ്ടാവുന്ന പൂർണ്ണമായ രസസാക്ഷാത്കാരം ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത് ആ രസത്തിന് മുഖ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള നാട്യത്തിന്റെ ആത്മാവാണ് രസം എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം ഭരതൻ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇതിവൃത്തന്തു നാട്യസ്യ അത്ര എന്താണ് നാട്യസ്യ തനുസ്മൃത എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. നാട്യത്തിന്റെ രസത്തിന്റെ തനുവാണ്, നാട്യത്തിന്റെ തനുവാണ് കാവ്യശരീരമെന്നും നാട്യത്തിന്റെ പ്രാണൻ രസമാണെന്നും അതിലെ മുഖ്യമായ അതാണ് മുഖ്യാർത്ഥ രസസ്യ മുഖ്യ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് എന്താണ് മുഖ്യം വിന ന കശ്ചിത് അർത്ഥ പ്രവർത്തത, രസം വിന ന കശ്ചിത് അർത്ഥ പ്രവർത്തത. രസമില്ലാതെ കണ്ട് ഒന്നും പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നില്ല. സോ തിയേറ്ററിൽ എന്ത് പ്രവർത്തിക്കണമെങ്കിലും രസം വേണം. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണ് നാട്യസംഗ്രഹത്തിൽ ആദ്യത്തെ സ്ഥാനം രസത്തിന് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. രസാഭാവാഹ്യഭിനയാഹ എന്നാണ് തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. അപ്പോ അതിന്റെ പ്രാധാന്യം. പക്ഷേ രസം മാത്രമല്ല, രസം മാത്രം അത് ആസ്വദിക്കാൻ സാധ്യമല്ല. രസം ആസ്വദിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ അത് അതിന്റെ വ്യഞ്ജക സാമഗ്രികളോട് കൂടി ആസ്വദിക്കണം. ആ വ്യഞ്ജക സാമഗ്രികൾ, വിഭാവങ്ങൾ, അനുഭാവങ്ങൾ, വ്യഭിചാരി ഭാവങ്ങൾ, ഇതെല്ലാം ഈ നേരത്തെ ഡോക്ടർ കണ്ണൻ ഇവിടെ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ ഇതെല്ലാം അതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് വരുന്നതാണ്. അതായത് നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്റ്റേജിൽ അവതരിപ്പിക്കുന്ന വാദ്യങ്ങള്, അവിടെ ഉള്ളതായിരിക്കുന്ന സജ്ജീകരണങ്ങള്, സ്റ്റേജിലുള്ള സജ്ജീകരണങ്ങള്, ഇങ്ങനെ പലതും എല്ലാം കൂടി ചേർന്നാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആസ്വദിക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ സിദ്ധി, വൃത്തി, പ്രവൃത്തി, സ്വരഹ, ആദോദ്യം, ഇങ്ങനെ ഈ ഘടകങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ ഭരതൻ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. സോ ഇറ്റ് ഹാപ്പൻസ് ഇൻ ടോട്ടാലിറ്റി. സോ ദ ഹോൾസം, ദ സംഗ്രഹ, നാട്യസംഗ്രഹ of some constituents like theater, acting, songs, music, rasa and the like. Obviously, rasa, as Bharata conceived, it was one of the many entities which together created a totality of rasa, of natya, which was meant to remove the worldly displeasures and sorrows. അപ്പൊ ലോകത്തിന്റെ എല്ലാ തരത്തിലുള്ള ആനന്ദരാഹിത്യത്തെയും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ദുഃഖത്തെയും അതിനെ അകറ്റുന്നതിനും ആനന്ദം ശാശ്വതമായി മനുഷ്യനുണ്ടാവുന്നതിനും ഒരു പ്രധാന കാരണമായിട്ടാണ് നാട്യത്തെ വിഷ്വലൈസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളത് ഭരതൻ. In other words, Bharata has explained rasa, like other terms in the natya, as an instrument in the staging of the plays. Through, of course, rasa happens to be an instrument of great significance. So rasa is significant. That is the most dominated one, and rasa becomes natya. Rasa, when rasa becomes a relatable one, it becomes in totality, it becomes natya. നാട്യം എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടി ചേർന്ന് അതിന്റെ പൂർണ്ണമായി ആസ്വാദന യോഗ്യമായി തീരുന്ന ഒന്നിനെയാണ് നാട്യം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അതിലെ മുഖ്യ ഘടകം രസമാണ്. ആ രസമാണ് ആത്മാവെന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. രസമാണ് അതായിട്ട് പരിണമിക്കുന്നത്, നാട്യമായി പരിണമിക്കുന്നത്. നമ്മള് രസാത്മകം കാവ്യം എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ രസം കാവ്യമായി പരിണമിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. രസം തന്നെ അതായിട്ട് മാറുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ നാട്യസംഗ്രഹത്തിലെ മറ്റ് 10 ഘടകങ്ങളും കൂടി ചേർന്ന്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 12 ഘടകങ്ങളും കൂടി ചേർന്ന് 13ാമത്തെ ഘടകമായ രസത്തെ, മുഖ്യമായ ഘടകത്തെ, അതിനെ ട്രാൻസ്ഫോം ചെയ്ത് ആ ചിത്തവൃത്തിയെ പൂർണ്ണമായും, ആ ഭാവത്തെ പൂർണ്ണമായും അതിനെ രസപദവിയിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് നാട്യം എന്ന ടോട്ടാലിറ്റിയിലുള്ള അനുഭവം നമുക്ക് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. As we have already noted above, Bharata has observed that natya is meant for the common man. അതാണ്. പക്ഷേ in the later stage, when rasa was discussed in detail, in microscopically, what happened in the hands of Abhinava Gupta and Bhattanagar and other people, it became an intellectual exercise. It's just like Brahmananda Sahodara. It is very difficult. You know, it is not so easy to have an experience of Brahmaswada, Brahma, the real Brahman. So how you can say that rasa is meant for a common man from the platform of the Arvachina Alangarikas, the later Alangarikas, the later rhetoricians. So Bharata has observed that natya is meant for common man. It would not be out of place to present the opinion of Bharata in his own words. That is the slogas I have quoted. Uttamadhama Madhyanam. 4 slogas. I think nowhere in later by later rhetoricians, by later Alangarikas, when they discuss rasa, they never taken pains to discuss this type of approaching the entire natya from the point of view of common man. This was never discussed. Natyasastra is very clearly in the first chapter whom natya is meant for. It is very clearly that have mentioned in 4 verses. This was ignored. The natya in all its rasas, bhavas and presentations would prove to be a karma samsraya. Naranam Karma Samshaya. For all the people belong to upper, lower, and middle strata of society. So no one is left out. It would impart useful knowledge and give patience. ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ വിജയത്തിന് ഏറ്റവും അധികം ആവശ്യമുള്ള കാര്യമാണ് പേഷ്യൻസ്, പ്ലേഫുൾനെസ്, approaching positively all the aspects in life which you have to face. So ഇതെല്ലാം നാട്യത്തിന്റെ ഫലമായിട്ടാണ് ഭരതൻ പറയുന്നത്. So playfulness and pleasure to all. The people who are fatigued with the mental worries, physical tiredness, and worldly sorrows would in all times find rest and diversion through natya. That is what Bharata said. So the natya would give to the people religious advantages like dharma, bodha, and like that, and long life and fame, sharpening of intellect, and general usefulness. Nowhere Bharata told that this is equal to Brahmaswada or equal to the. These are later additions. But the basic concept of natya, if you say all later rhetoricians, they accept that Bharata is the ultimate authority, and we at any cost we should not cross the theories of Bharata. Bharatan Munitantram atra pramanam, Munivajanam atra anulanghaniyam എന്നൊക്കെ ജഗന്നാഥ പണ്ഡിതനും അതുപോലെയുള്ള പിന്നിൽ നിൽക്കുന്ന വലിയ വലിയ പണ്ഡിതന്മാരൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഭരതനെ ഒരു തരത്തിലും കവച്ചു വെച്ച് കിടക്കാൻ പാടില്ല എന്നാണ്. ഭരതൻ പറയുന്നത് മാത്രമാണ് പ്രമാണം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന പിന്നീട് വന്ന ആലങ്കാരികന്മാർ അവരെ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അവര് പറഞ്ഞതൊന്നും ഇതുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടല്ല കാണുന്നത്. അപ്പോ വെച്ചാൽ അതിന് പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്തതായിട്ട് നാം കാണുന്നില്ല. So what I want to say that the people who are fatigued and who are mental worries, physical tiredness, and worldly sorrows would in all times find rest and diversion through natya. അപ്പോ ആനന്ദത്തെ ആശ്രയിക്കാനും ആനന്ദേതരമായ വിഷയങ്ങൾ ലോകത്തിൽ എന്തൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അതിനെയൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഫോർഗോ ചെയ്യുന്നതിനും അതിനെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് മറക്കുന്നതിനും അതിനെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് തരണം ചെയ്യുന്നതിനും നാട്യം നമ്മളെ സഹായിക്കുന്നു എന്നാണ് ഭരതൻ പറയുന്നത്. Bharata has expressed this opinion in 4 karikas, and that karikas we have already explained. That is in the first adhyaya 113 to 116 karikas, 4 karikas of natyasastra, wherein he has thrown ample light on the purpose of the natya. In the very beginning, he has made it sufficiently clear that natya is for all and not for a chosen few. The natya envisages a kind of welfare for people, for all walks of life. That is the thing. The natya will not only give them pleasure and diversion from worldly sorrows, but will also grasp in their minds useful qualities like patience, which will help the man in the street to lead a purposeful and happy life. Undoubtedly, this is the best specimen in the entire Sanskrit poetics we find mention about the purpose of poetry. Actually, this Bharata statement is the real purpose of poetry. It is the purpose of rasa. But this never discussed with seriousness by any one of the later rhetoricians in the history. So undoubtedly, this is the best specimen and the poetry and the Kavya Prayojana. Yet such mentions almost always fail to go beyond the fulfillment of a ritual exercise. As a ritual exercise, they have mentioned somewhere Trurga Sadhanam, Natyam, and so many like that. But it is not to the level of its good result. So most always fail to go beyond the fulfillment of a ritual exercise, and we do not meet with any significant effort on the part of any acharya to indulge in serious discussions of this kind, elaborating Bharata in the aforesaid 4 karikas. The natya of Bharata is meant to fulfill this purpose. He does not appear to be a supporter of a natya for natya. He is not a supporter of the theory that is natya for the world. His theory is natya for the world, the entire world. Later, the rhetoricians later poeticians, the later aestheticians, when they discussed the theory of rasa, they made the natya or a rasa meant for only for rasa, not for ordinary man. Now, if natya is to be accomplish a particular purpose, then all its constituents are naturally enough to be knit together to the achievement of this very purpose. നാട്യത്തിന്റെ ഫലം കിട്ടണമെങ്കിൽ നാട്യസംഗ്രഹത്തിൽ ഭരതൻ പറയുന്ന എല്ലാ ഘടകങ്ങളും ഒരുമിച്ച് പ്രവർത്തിക്കണം. ഇപ്പൊ ഇൻസ്ട്രുമെന്റ്സ് വേണ്ട പോലെ പ്രവർത്തിക്കാതിരുന്നാൽ രസം വേണ്ട പോലെ നമുക്ക് അനുഭവപ്പെടില്ല. ഇപ്പൊ കഥകളിയില് ഇപ്പൊ ഡോക്ടർ കണ്ണനൊക്കെ അത് വേറെ തരത്തിൽ സൂചിപ്പിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. അതായത് മനോഹരമായ പദങ്ങൾ ചൊല്ലുന്നു, ആ പദങ്ങളിൽ നമുക്ക് അർത്ഥങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് ഡയറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് ഉണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷെ അത് മുദ്രകളിൽ കൂടെ, നാട്യധർമ്മിയിൽ കൂടെ അതൊരു അലൗകിക പരിവേഷത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് എത്തുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഒരു അലൗകിക അനുഭൂതി രസത്തിന്റെ ആ ചിത്തവൃത്തിയുടെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി തീർക്കുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അത് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ സഹായിക്കുന്നതാണ് വാദ്യോപകരണങ്ങൾ, അതിലെ സംഗീതത്തിന്റെ അംശം, അതൊക്കെ അതിന്റെ ഘടകങ്ങളാണ്. ഈ നാട്യ ഘടകങ്ങളെല്ലാം, സംഗ്രഹത്തിലെ ഘടകങ്ങളെല്ലാം ഒന്നിച്ചു ചേർന്നാലേ അത് ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഇൻ ദിസ് വെരി പ്രോസസ് that the usefulness of natya can be envisaged. ഇത് അർവാചീന കലാകാരൻ ആലങ്കാരികന്മാര് പിന്നീട് വന്ന ആലങ്കാരികന്മാരെ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് ചർച്ച ചെയ്യേണ്ടായിട്ടില്ല. രസത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ഭരതന് ശേഷം രസത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് കാര്യമായ രണ്ട് പരാമർശങ്ങൾ ഉള്ളത്, ഒന്ന് ആചാര്യ ദണ്ഡിയുടേതും മറ്റൊന്ന് ആചാര്യ വാമനന്റേതുമാണ്. ദണ്ഡി രസവത് രസപേശലം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് രസത്തെ ഒരു രസപേശലം രസവത്, രസം മനോഹരമായിട്ട് ആവിഷ്കരിക്കപ്പെട്ടാൽ അതൊരു അലങ്കാരമാകും എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ. അതിനെ കാവ്യത്തിലെ ഒരു അലങ്കാരമായിട്ട്, അലങ്കാരിക ചർച്ചയിൽ അലങ്കാരം അപ്രധാനമാണെന്ന് നമുക്കറിയാലോ. അപ്പൊ രസം ഒരിക്കലും ആ പ്രധാനമായ പദവിയിൽ എത്തുന്നില്ല ദണ്ഡിയുടെ ദൃഷ്ടിയിൽ. വാമനന്റെ ദൃഷ്ടിയിലാണെങ്കിൽ മറ്റേ ദീപ്തരസത്വം കാന്തി എന്നാണ് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നത്. അത് രസത്തെ കാന്തി എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഗുണമായിട്ട്, കാവ്യ ഗുണമായിട്ടാണ് അദ്ദേഹം ചെയ്തത്. ഗുണം അലങ്കാരത്തെ അപേക്ഷിച്ച് കുറച്ചുകൂടെ ആന്തരികമായ ഒരു തത്വമാണ്, അല്ലായില്ല. പക്ഷേ അവിടെയും ആ ഗുണം ഒരു ഗുണിയിലാണ് ഇരിക്കുന്നത്. ആ ഗുണി ഏത് എന്നുള്ള അന്വേഷണം ഉണ്ടായിട്ടില്ല. ഇതൊക്കെ ഭരതന്റെ ഈ കോൺസെപ്റ്റുകൾ നല്ലപോലെ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഇതൊക്കെ വ്യക്തമാവുന്നതാണ്. അത് അങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു ഒരു ചർച്ച നമ്മുടെ അലങ്കാര ശാസ്ത്രത്തിൽ അതിന് പ്രാധാന്യം നൽകിക്കൊണ്ട് ഭരതന്റെ കോൺസെപ്റ്റിനെ വേണ്ട പോലെ അതിനെ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യുക. ഇത് ഭരതന്റെ കോൺസെപ്റ്റുകൾ എടുക്കുകയും എന്നാൽ അതിൽ നിന്ന് എത്രത്തോളം പകർന്നാടാമോ അത്രത്തോളം പകർന്നാടുകയും അത്രത്തോളം അകന്നകന്നു പോവുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ അലങ്കാരിന്മാരുടെ പ്രക്രിയയിൽ ചർച്ചയിൽ നാം കാണുന്നത്. ഹിയർ so what I want to say is that now if natya to accomplish a particular purpose, then its constituents, as I told you, it should be full and fulfillment of this social purpose. Bharata has clearly mentioned that this fact in one of his karigas referred this, as he has mentioned here, that there should be samagrada for natya sangraha. All the natya sangraha elements should be, he has put all the 11. There is no 12th or no 14th one. There are two versions, 11 natya sangrahas or 13 natya sangrahas, whatever it may be. Let it be 13. If 13 natya sangrahas are there, there is not an additional 114, only 13. So Bharata has exclusively told that edadrisheshu bhaveshu sarvakarma kriyaswatha sarvobadesha jananam natyamedad bhavishyati. Since rasa is one of the constituents of natya, it therefore has to be dramatized in such a way as to accomplish the social purpose of natya. So the rasa should be dramatized. To dramatize rasa, what you have to do? It is a chittavritti. But how it becomes dramatized, how it will be appealing to a connoisseur, a sahraya, when it is added with other natya sangrahas, bhava, vritti, pravritti, siddhi, adodyam, etc. So since rasa is one of the constituents of natya, it therefore has to be dramatized in such a way as to accomplish the social purpose of natya. Bharata has enumerated 11 constituents of natya vidhana, natya sangraha, and if a social there is a so-called interpolated kariga is there, it is basically the original, the great stalwart scholars, they believe only there is only 11. That is a more reasonable padha. But some people accept 13. Whatever it may be, this Natya Sangraha is the final, and based on that, Natya should be performed. Then the number of the instruments of Natya is raised to 13. If it is the second version, if you take. Of all these instruments of Natya, that is all the 13 of Natya, the Rasa has been given the prominent place, prime place. However, it remains unambiguously clear that in the opinion of Bharata, unlike that of the later poeticians, Bharata, his theory is not like the theory of the later poeticians. Rasa is a means. It is an instrument. Rasa is an instrument. It is not the target. It is not the target. It is an instrument. നാട്യത്തെ സാധിക്കുന്നതിനുള്ള ഉപകരണങ്ങളിൽ മുഖ്യമായിട്ടുള്ളതാണ് രസം. ആ മുഖ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള രസത്തെ ത്രൂ ഔട്ട്, അതായത് ഒരു കാവ്യത്തിന്റെ അവസാനത്തിൽ മാത്രം എത്തിച്ചേരേണ്ട ലക്ഷ്യമായിട്ടല്ല അതിനെ കാണുന്നത്. കാവ്യത്തിന്റെ ആരംഭം മുതൽ, തിയേറ്റർ ആരംഭിക്കുന്ന മുതൽ, തിയേറ്ററിന്റെ ആരംഭം മുതൽ ആദ്യത്തെ മണി മുഴങ്ങുന്നതോടുകൂടി, കർട്ടൻ പൊങ്ങുന്നതോടുകൂടി നിങ്ങൾ ആ ഏത് കലയാണോ നിങ്ങൾ കാണുന്നത്, ഏത് നാടകമാണോ നിങ്ങൾ കാണുന്നത്, ആ നാടകത്തിന്റെ ആസ്വാദനം തുടങ്ങുകയാണ്. അവിടുന്ന് രസം ക്രമത്തിൽ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തു വരികയാണ്. അതിന്റെ പൂർണ്ണമായിട്ട് ആ ഒരു അന്തിമഘട്ടത്തിൽ ആ രസത്തിന്റെ പൂർണ്ണത നമുക്ക് കൈവരിക്കുന്നു. കാരണം ആ നാട്യം പൂർണ്ണമായി അവതരിപ്പിച്ച് കഴിയുമ്പോഴേ ആ നാട്യത്തിന്റെ പൂർണ്ണത, അതിന്റെ ഫുൾഫിൽമെന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പൂർണ്ണമായും നമുക്കുണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ. അങ്ങനെ unlike the later poeticians, Rasa is a means, an instrument of staging of Rasa of the plays, and not an end in itself. അത് മാത്രമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ലക്ഷ്യമായ ഒന്ന്, നാട്യത്തിന്റെ ഒരു ലക്ഷ്യഭൂതമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒന്ന്, നാട്യം കൊണ്ട് കിട്ടേണ്ട ഒരു സാധനം എന്നല്ല, നാട്യം തന്നെ കിട്ടുന്നത് രസം കൊണ്ടാണ് എന്നാണ് ഭരതന്റെ കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്. If you try to read afresh the world famous Rasa Sutra of Bharata in the light of what has been said above, we are acquainted with a new perspective of rasa, which can, of course, be described as its original perspective. The Rasa Sutra of Bharata runs like this: Vibhava Anubhava Vibhijari Samyoga Rasa Nishpati. Critics from Bhattalolada onwards have invariably taken up the sutra for discussion. The Rasa Sutra mentions an amalgamation of Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhijari Bhava as a prerequisite of Rasa realization. The kind of explanation which Bharata has brought forth on these three important dramaturgical terms. Dr. Kannan, എനിക്ക് മുമ്പ് സംസാരിച്ച ഡോക്ടർ കണ്ണൻ ഈ അനുഭാവങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പറയേണ്ടായി. അതെങ്ങനെയാണ് രസത്തെ ഒരു സഹൃദയന്റെ സാമാജികന്റെ അന്തർഗതമായിട്ട് ഉള്ളിൽ പോയിട്ട് ഈ അനുഭാവങ്ങളെയാണ് നടൻ അഭിനയിക്കുന്നത്. ആ അഭിനയിക്കുന്ന വിഭാവാദികള് എങ്ങനെയാണ് സഹൃദയന്റെ അന്ധകരണത്തിൽ പ്രവേശിച്ച് അത് സ്ഥായിയുമായി ഇടകലർന്ന് അത് എങ്ങനെ ഒരു രസമായി പരിണമിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതിനെ കുറിച്ച് സൂചിപ്പിക്കേണ്ടായി. The kind of explanation which Bharata has brought forth on these three important dramaturgical terms, that is Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhijari, these three terms, put the things beyond doubt that but there is no doubt here. Why people made it alaugika, all this Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhijari, which is something supernatural, which is above world, and creating them a mess out of all these things, and illustrious and important, and the kind of explanation that Bharata has brought forth on these three important dramaturgical terms put the kind of beyond doubt that the illustrious author of Natyasastra was treating rasa purely as an instrument of stage. സ്റ്റേജിന്റെ നാട്യത്തിന്റെ ഒരു ഇൻസ്ട്രുമെന്റ്, സ്റ്റേജിന്റെ ഒരു ഇൻസ്ട്രുമെന്റ് ആയിട്ടാണ് രസത്തെ ഉപയോഗിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത് ഭരതൻ. Bharata explains bhava as one which presents the abhinaya, that is acting, of rasa in different ways. Similarly, the definitions of vibhava, etc., too conclude that they imply a kind of rasa which is obtained through abhinaya. In other words, rasa, in the opinion of Bharata, is abhinaya. Rasa should be enacted. It is not abhinaya, it is abhinaya. It is meant for abhinaya. It is abhinaya. That is, it is to be enacted, performed on the stage, to be performed on the stage. Its staging ultimately leads to the maturity of Natya. That is the thing. When Natya becomes mature, you get the full enjoyment of that Natya. It would not be out of place to quote Bharata himself. He says that Vibhava. Vibhava is, he comments on Vibhava. What is Vibhava? He says that Vibhava is one which acquaints us with the abhinaya of speech, physically, gestures, and emotions. That is what Dr. Kannan just now told. And what is Anubhava? Now, where from is this Anubhava? He asks. Bharata asks, from where this Anubhava came? The reply is, Anubhava is one which makes us feel the abhinaya of speech, physical gestures and emotions. And finally, the third one, Vibhijarin. Now we shall explain the Vibhijarins, what Bharata says. Where from are they? Where from they came? The reply is, Vi and Abhi are the two prefixes, upasargas. And chara is a root meaning gati, movement. When combined with the abhinaya of speech, physical gestures and emotions, the Vibhijarins variously lead us to the rasa during the performance of the play. So the Vibhijarins, they take us, Lajja, Nirveda, Glani, Shanga, all these Vibhijarins, Naimashika Bhavas, they give a company to rasa, and there is a Poshaka Bhava between the Vibhijarins and the Sthayi Bhava, and finally Sthayi Bhava reaches the destination of rasa. The above translated quotations from Bharata about Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhijari, what I have already mentioned from Bharata, sufficiently demonstrate their author's approach to the bhavas. These are actually, there is no doubt that the later poeticians explained bhavas in a highly philosophical manner. See, when it came to the hands of Bhattanayaka, it started becoming something alaugika, which Bharata explained as purely laugika. Bhattanayaka made it Satodrega Prakash Anandamaya Samvid Vishranti Satatvena Bhogena Pujyate. This is what Bhattanayaka says. And when it was explained by Mamada Bhatta in the fourth chapter of Kavya Prakasha, when he was explaining the major rasa and rupanas of Bhattalallada, starting from Bhattalallada, except Bhattalallada. Bhattalallada never explained rasa or vibhavas as alaugikas. But Sri Shanguga, he started the alaugigathinte askita ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ബാധിച്ച് കാണുന്നത് നമ്മൾ ശ്രീശങ്കുവനിലാണ്. പ്യുവർലി നൈയായികനായിട്ടുള്ള ശ്രീശങ്കുകൻ, അദ്ദേഹം യുക്തിക്ക് ആധാരമാക്കി മാത്രമേ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യാൻ പാടുള്ളൂ എന്നിരിക്കെ അദ്ദേഹം യുക്തിഹീനമായിട്ടാണ് അവിടെ ചർച്ച തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നത് അന്യ അനുമീയമാന വിലക്ഷണ എന്നാണ്. വിഭാവാദി, the vibhavadis, the suggestive elements of rasa, what has already explained by Bharata, Sri Shanguga says that these are anya anumiyamana vilakshana. So these are entirely different from the world, from the anumana field. ലോകത്തിലെ അനുമാനത്തിന്റെ ഫീൽഡില് അനുമാനത്തിന് കാരണമായിട്ടുള്ള വിഭാവം മറ്റേ ഹേതുക്കൾ ഏതാണോ ആ ഹേതുക്കളെ പോലെയല്ല ഈ ഹേതുക്കള്, വിലക്ഷണമാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാവും അലൗകികങ്ങളാണ്, അന്യ അനുമീയമാന വിലക്ഷണ. അവിടെയാണ് ആദ്യത്തെ അതിന്റെ ബീജം നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. വിഭാവാദികളെ അലൗകികമായി ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുന്ന ആദ്യത്തെ ബീജം നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത് അവിടെയാണ്. ഭട്ടനായകനിലെ ഈ സത്വോദ്രേക പ്രകാശ ആനന്ദ്, അത് കുറെ കൂടി ലേറ്ററാണ് ഭട്ടനായകൻ, ശ്രീശങ്കുവിന് മുമ്പാണ്. ശ്രീശങ്കുവൻ പറയുന്നത് ഇവിടെയാണ്. പിന്നെ ഭട്ടനായകനിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോ ഇങ്ങനെ പറയും. പിന്നെ ശ്രീശങ്കു കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഭട്ടനായകന്റെ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചു, ശ്രീശങ്കുവിന്റെ കാര്യം ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു. പിന്നെ അഭിനവഗുപ്തനിലേക്ക് വന്നപ്പോഴേക്കും അതൊരു പ്രമാണമായി, അതൊരു ശാസ്ത്രമായി. മറ്റുള്ളവര് പടുത്തുയർത്തിക്കൊണ്ടുവന്ന കെട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടുവന്ന കോണി ആ പടിയിൽ കൂടെ കയറി അഭിനവഗുപ്തൻ, അങ്ങനെയാണല്ലോ ശാസ്ത്രം, അങ്ങനെ മുകളിലേക്ക് കയറി. ഇതിനൊക്കെ പ്ലസ് പോയിന്റുകൾ ഉണ്ട് കേട്ടോ. ഈ ചർച്ചകൾക്കൊക്കെ അതിൻ്റെതായ ഗുണങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ അതിന്റെ ഒരു സാധാരണ മനുഷ്യന്റെ കാഴ്ചപ്പാടിൽ നാട്യശാസ്ത്രത്തെ നോക്കിക്കാണുന്ന ലോകത്തിന്റെ അനുഭവത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ഭരതൻ സാധാരണക്കാരുടെ ആംഗിളിൽ നിന്ന് ദർശിച്ചത് അത് സഫലമായോ പിന്നീടുള്ള ചർച്ചയിൽ എന്നുള്ള വരുമ്പോഴാണ് അതിന് സാഫല്യം കുറഞ്ഞുപോയി, അതിന് സാഫല്യം ഉണ്ടായില്ല എന്ന് സ്ഥാപിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയാണ് ഞാൻ ഇത്രയും കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയുന്നത്. ഇവിടെ അഭിനവ്ഗുപ്തന്റെ മതത്തിൽ വരുമ്പോഴേക്കും അദ്ദേഹവും ഈ നാട്യത്തെ ആധാരമാക്കിയിട്ട് തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞു തുടങ്ങിയത്. പക്ഷെ വേഗം സ്ലിപ്പ് ചെയ്ത് അദ്ദേഹം കാവ്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ ചെന്ന് അതെല്ലാവരും അതെ, കാവ്യപ്രകാശകാരൻ ഉടനീളം കാവ്യത്തിലെ രസത്തെ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുന്നിടത്തൊക്കെ നാട്യത്തെയല്ല പലപ്പോഴും കാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നാണ് ഉദാഹരിക്കുന്നത്. അത് ആചാര്യ കുന്തകനായാലും ആചാര്യ മഹിമഭട്ടനായാലും അതുപോലെയുള്ള പിൻകാലത്ത് വന്ന എല്ലാ ആചാര്യന്മാരും സാഹിത്യ ദർപ്പണകാരനും ഒക്കെ എല്ലാവരും ഇങ്ങനെ തന്നെയാണ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. അഭിനവ്ഗുപ്തന്റെ പക്ഷത്തിൽ വരുമ്പോ അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നത് രസത്തിന്റെ ഹേതുക്കളായിട്ടുള്ള രസം ഉണ്ടാവുന്നതിന് കാരണമായിട്ടുള്ള വിഭാവാനുഭവ വിചാരികൾ അവ വാസ്തവത്തിൽ കാരകഹേതുക്കളുമല്ല ജ്ഞാപകഹേതുക്കളുമല്ല. ലോകത്തിൽ രണ്ട് ലോകത്തിലെ ഹേതുക്കളുള്ളൂ. കാരണങ്ങൾ ലോകത്തിൽ രണ്ട് തരത്തിലേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഒന്ന് കാരകഹേതു അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ജ്ഞാപകഹേതു. ഒരു വസ്തുവിനെ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് കാരകഹേതു, ഒരു വസ്തുവിനെ കുറിച്ച് അറിവ് നമുക്ക് തരുന്നത് ജ്ഞാപകഹേതു. ഈ രണ്ട് ഹേതുക്കളെ ലോകത്തിലുള്ളൂ. മൂന്നാമതൊരു ഹേതു ഇല്ലേ ലോകത്തിലെ. എന്നാൽ കാവ്യത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് ഈ വിഭാവാദികൾ കാരകഹേതുക്കളായിട്ടും വരില്ല, ജ്ഞാപകഹേതുക്കളായിട്ടും വരില്ല. എന്നാൽ കാരകഹേതു അല്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഉടനെ അത് ജ്ഞാപകഹേതുവും. കാരണം ഇത് രണ്ടേ ഉള്ളൂ ലോകത്തിലെ. കാരകമല്ല എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ജ്ഞാപകമാവും, ജ്ഞാപകമല്ല എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ കാരകമാവും. അപ്പൊ ഇത് രണ്ടും അല്ലാതിരിക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയും രണ്ടും ആയിരിക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയും വിഭാവാദികൾക്കുണ്ടല്ലോ എന്നാണ് കാവ്യപ്രകാശകാരൻ പറയുന്നത്. അത് അഭിനവ്ഗുപ്തന്റെ മതത്തെ സംഗ്രഹിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് പറയുന്നത്. ഞാനിത് കാവ്യപ്രകാശിലെ ഭാഗമാണ്, ഞാൻ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് പരിചയമുള്ളത് അതാണെന്നുള്ളതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അഭിനവ്ഗുപ്തന്റെ ഒറിജിനൽ ടെക്സ്റ്റിലേക്ക് പോവാതെ അഭിനവ്ഗുപ്തനെ മമ്മണഭട്ടൻ അവതരിപ്പിച്ച വിഷയം അത് സെയിം തന്നെ, മാറ്റമൊന്നുമില്ല. അപ്പോ അതുകൊണ്ട് so what I want to explain it through my paper or want to establish or want to give some concrete evidences that Vibhavadis have been explained by later rhetoricians as something alaugika, is not beyond the world. But Bharata never discusses a matter beyond the world. He always discusses within the world. And he obeyed logopadesha jananam, loga sangrahartham, loga pidarahityartham. He says everything within the limit of the world. So the now the above translated quotations from Bharata sufficiently demonstrate about this, and consequently we see that the Rasaswada, which was purported to give a worldly relief to mortals, adana Bharatante laksham. Rasaswada from Natya, finally it should give worldly relief and a kind of what we call pleasure, to a kind of relief from all sorrows for all mortals. And that is this was ingane valare simple aayittulla ee aashayathe Bharathan uddeshikkunna loga sangrahartham, loga sangraham loga nanmayanu. ലോക നന്മയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി നാട്യസംഗ്രഹത്തെ ഈ തരത്തിൽ വ്യാഖ്യാനിച്ചെടുത്ത ഭരതന്റെ ഈ സിദ്ധാന്തത്തെ വളരെ ഗഹനമായ കുറച്ച് പണ്ഡിതന്മാർക്ക് മാത്രം മനസ്സിലാകുന്ന ഒരു ബൗദ്ധിക എക്സർസൈസ്. വാസ്തവത്തിൽ നാട്യം ബൗദ്ധികമായ ഒരു വിഷയമാണോ? അല്ലല്ലോ. അത് മനസ്സിന്റെ വികാരങ്ങളെ ആസ്വദിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാധനമാണ് നാട്യം. അപ്പോ അതൊരു ബൗദ്ധികമായ ഒരു വിഷയമല്ല. ശാസ്ത്രങ്ങളാണ് ബൗദ്ധിക വിഷയങ്ങൾ. കാവ്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ, നാടകങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ ആസ്വദിക്കുമ്പോൾ, ആസ്വാദനം എവിടെയൊക്കെ നടക്കുന്നോ അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ്ലി അതൊക്കെ മനസ്സിന്റെ വികാരത്തിന്റെ വിഷയമാണ്. അതെല്ലാം വികാരത്തിന്റെ പൂർണ്ണതയാണ്, വികാരത്തിന്റെ മെച്യൂരിറ്റിയാണ് നമ്മൾ ആസ്വദിക്കുന്നത്. എല്ലാ വികാരങ്ങളും അതിന്റെ പൂർണ്ണതയിൽ എത്തുമ്പോഴാണ് അത് ആസ്വദിക്കുന്നത്. അതിന്റെ വ്യഞ്ജക സാമഗ്രികൾ പൂർണ്ണമായി അതത് ഭാവങ്ങളോട് കൂടിച്ചേരുമ്പോഴാണ് ആ വികാരങ്ങൾ, ആ ചിത്തവൃത്തികൾ നാം ആസ്വദിച്ച് അതാണ് ലോകത്തിന് പ്രയോജനം ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് എന്നാണ് ഭരതന്റെ കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്. ആ കോൺസെപ്റ്റിനെ ബ്രഹ്മാസ്വാദം പോലെ വേദാന്തികളായിട്ടുള്ള വലിയ മനനവും നിധിധ്യാസനവും ഒക്കെ ചെയ്ത്, ചിന്തനമൊക്കെ ചെയ്ത്, വളരെ ബുദ്ധി കൊണ്ടുള്ള എക്സർസൈസ് കൊണ്ട് നേടേണ്ടതായ ശങ്കരാചാര്യരെ പോലെയൊക്കെയുള്ള ആളുകൾക്ക് മാത്രം പ്രാപ്യമായ ഒരു ബ്രഹ്മാസ്വാദ സദൃശമായ ഒന്നാക്കി രസത്തെ മാറ്റി എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഇതിന് പറ്റിയ ഒരു കാലോചിതമായ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കാലഗതിക്കനുസരിച്ചുണ്ടായ ഒരു കോട്ടം എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചത്. ഇനി അധികമില്ല. The rasa, which was the resultant achievement of the abhinaya of the three varieties of bhava on the stage, was itself an instrument of stage performance. While commenting on different rasas in the natyasastra, Bharata has always kept high before himself the ideals of abhinaya. അതാണ് രസവും അഭിനയവും തമ്മിലേ ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടുള്ളൂ. രസം ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ അല്ല, ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ രസത്തിന്റെ വർണ്ണനയാണുള്ളത്. രസത്തെ കുറിച്ച്, രസത്തിന്റെ വിഭാവാദി സാമഗ്രികൾ, ഇപ്പോ ചെണ്ട കൊട്ടുന്നത് കൊട്ടുന്നതും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വയലിൻ വായിക്കുന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ച് വർണ്ണിക്കുന്ന തമ്മിലുള്ള വ്യത്യാസം പോലെയാണ്. വയലിൻ വായിച്ച് നമ്മൾ നേരിട്ട് കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന വയലിന്റെ ഓരോ വായന കേൾക്കുമ്പോഴും ഇത് ഏത് ചിത്തവൃത്തിയാണ് ഈ വാദകൻ ഇപ്പൊ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത് എന്ന് നമുക്ക് ഉടനെ മനസ്സിലാവും. പക്ഷേ അതിനെ വർണ്ണിക്കുന്ന ആ വയലിൻ ഇങ്ങനെ വായിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് വാക്കുകളെ കൊണ്ട് പറയുമ്പോൾ അതിന്റെ വർണ്ണനയാണ് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. അതാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്, ഒന്നിന്റെ ജ്ഞാനത്തിന്റെ ഫലവും ജ്ഞാനത്തിന്റെ വിഷയവും രണ്ടും രണ്ടാണ്. അതാണ് ഞാൻ അഗ്നി പൊള്ളുന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞത്. അഗ്നി പൊള്ളുമ്പോൾ പൊള്ളൽ ഒന്നാണ്, പക്ഷെ പൊള്ളലിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള അറിവ് വേറൊന്നാണ്. ഇത് ഒന്ന് ജ്ഞാനത്തിന്റെ വിഷയമാണ്, മറ്റൊന്ന് ജ്ഞാനത്തിന്റെ ഫലമാണ്. ഈ വ്യത്യാസം നമുക്ക് ദൃശ്യശ്രവ്യ കാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ ഒരു പരിധി വരെ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ കഴിയും. എന്നാലും മറ്റു ലോകത്തിലുള്ളതിനേക്കാൾ വ്യത്യസ്തമാണ് ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങൾ. അവിടെ കുറെ ചമത്കാരങ്ങൾ, അലങ്കാരങ്ങളെ കൊണ്ടും മറ്റു പലതുകൊണ്ടും ചമത്കാരങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാവുന്നുണ്ട്. രസത്തിനെ കുറിച്ചും വർണ്ണിക്കുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് രസത്തിന്റെ കുറെ സ്പർശം അവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവുന്നുണ്ട്. അതാണ് രസവദലങ്കാരം മുതലായിട്ടുള്ളതിനെ കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ ഇവർ പറയുന്നത്, ആചാര്യദണ്ഡിയൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത്. രസം പോലെയല്ല, രസമല്ല, പക്ഷെ രസം പോലെ നമുക്ക് അനുഭവപ്പെടുന്നു ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങളിൽ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്. അതാണ് രസവത് എന്നുള്ളത്, രസം പോലെ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് പിന്നീട് ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തത്. അപ്പൊ ഈ ഒരു ആശയത്തെ നാം മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ടതുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അപ്പോ ഇവിടെ the rasa which was the resultant achievement of the abhinaya that was I mentioned, Bharata always kept high about the natya and the abhinaya. He explains the abhinaya of the rati is to be done through smiling face, sweet that clipping of birds, sweet talks, enormous movements of eyebrows. So my previous talker, that speaker has mentioned about why you have to blacken your eyebrows, why your cheek should be reddish, and why your this Uttarashta and Adharashta lips should be polished. All these things. Why in the theater you use all these things? There is something very concrete. So you are hearing now? I am concluding.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
We are hearing.
Yes, I am concluding now. Now I am
Yes,
concluding.
sir, please.
Yes. It is now time to arrive at a certain clear drawn out conclusions. Bharata has envisaged Natya as a medium of imparting relief to the masses who are down with physical tiredness, mental weariness, and a variety of sorrows in the world. The Natya is a wholesome presentation of some 11 or 13 constituents, Natya Sangrahas, which together make for its success. Rasa is one such constituent, though in the matter of significance, Rasa occupies the first place. That is the most significant Natya Sangraha element. Bharata has cherished Rasa along with all its bhavas as essentially an instrument of abhinaya, that is an instrument of staging of plays on no account in itself. രസം അത് മാത്രമായിട്ട് അതിന്റെ ഫലമല്ല, രസം അതിന്റെ ഉപകരണമാണ്. നാട്യത്തെ പൂർണ്ണമായും രസാസ്വാദത്തിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുന്നതിന് രസമാണ് മെയിൻ റോൾ വഹിക്കുന്നത്. രസം തന്നെയാണ് അതിന്റെ ആസ്വാദത്തെ പൂർണ്ണമായി എത്തിക്കുന്നതിന് കാരണമായിട്ടുള്ളത് എന്നാണ്. The post Bharata period is distinguished by two peculiar characteristics. The first, the degree of technicalities. രസാസ്വാദത്തിന് ആവശ്യമില്ലാത്ത ശാസ്ത്ര തന്ത്രങ്ങൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച്, ശാസ്ത്ര ദുർഗ്രഹതകള്, ശാസ്ത്ര സാങ്കേതിക പദങ്ങൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് അതിനെ കൂടുതൽ സങ്കീർണമാക്കി. രസത്തിന്റെ സിംപ്ലിസിറ്റി, ഭരതൻ പറയുന്ന രസത്തിന്റെ സിംപ്ലിസിറ്റി പിന്നീടുള്ള ശാസ്ത്രകാരന്മാർക്ക് ഉണ്ടായില്ല. The degree of technicalities and love for poetry. And അർവാചീനന്മാർക്ക് ഭരതന് ശേഷം വന്നവർ ഒക്കെ കവിതയിലായിരുന്നു അവർക്ക് കമ്പം, നാട്യത്തിലായിരുന്നില്ല, ശ്രവ്യകാവ്യങ്ങളിലായിരുന്നു അവരുടെ താല്പര്യം. ഈ രണ്ട് പാരഡൈം ഷിഫ്റ്റ് ഇൻ ദെയർ തിങ്കിങ്, പാരഡൈം ഷിഫ്റ്റ് വി ഫൈൻഡ് ഫ്രം നാട്യ from drishya to shravya, and the entire journey of rasa starting from Bharata, it has suffered a lot, and it has gone away. Rasa theory, the Rasa relishment and its theories have gone away and kept aloof from the common man. And at the same time, Rasa got, at the same time, the great achievement of the later rhetoricians are that Rasa got a high pedestal in the doctrines like Brahma Swada and like that. It attained that final, what we call such a philosophical attainment. And but what really happened, that Rasa became a Kavya Vedanta. Rasa became a Shravya Kavya Vedanta in the hands of later rhetoricians. Actually, it is the main ingredient, the main instrument to reach the final destination of Natya, that is Rasa, that was ignored by the later rhetoricians. This is my standpoint. And with these observations, I beg to remain. I am very sorry that I could not give some more points in this because of the paucity of time. I think if any discussion is there, any questions are there, we can clear in such areas. Thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. बहुत शोभन.
Thank you very much, sir. We are enjoyed your
Nice.
paper,
Very nice.
and actually you have presented all the things related to from natyasastra and kavyasastra, and
Thank you, sir.
I'm very much happy
Thank you,
to
sir.
see your paper.
After a long time, we are meeting, Pandeyji.
Yes, sir. It is.
You are smiling face.
वस्तुतः अन्यः लाभः भवतां यः सिद्धान्तः भवद्भिः निर्धारितः तत् रसः अभिनेयो भवति इति वस्तुतः अतीव रोचते मह्यं. पुनः श्रव्य काव्य वेदांत इति यदुक्तं, वस्तुतः काव्यशास्त्रिभिः रसस्य ये सिद्धान्ताः निरूपिताः तत्र वस्तुतः श्रव्य काव्य वेदान्तता समागता वर्तते. किन्तु भवद्भिः यत् प्रतिपादितं यत् नाट्ये एव रसस्य प्राधान्यं भवति, न तु श्रव्य काव्येषु तथा. वस्तुतः दृश्य काव्येषु रस माध्यमेनैव सर्वं भवति. रस एव नाट्यं, नाट्यमेव रसः इति कृत्वा अभिनवगुप्तः तत्र सर्वं प्रतिपादयति. तत् सर्वं वस्तुतः समग्रोऽपि इतिहासः, समग्रापि परम्परा भवद्भिः शोधपत्रे प्रतिपादिता. भरतात् आरभ्य पंडितराज पर्यन्तम्, अथ च तदनन्तरं पुनः भवद्भिः मध्ये मध्ये मलयालम शब्दानां यः प्रयोगः कृतः स तु अतीव अरोचत अस्मभ्यं, यतोहि तत् मलयालम भिन्ना भाषा इति मम प्रतीतिः न जाता. तत्र संस्कृतस्य यो प्राधान्यम् अस्ति, भवन्तः संस्कृतमेव वदन्तः सन्ति इत्येव मया अनुभूतम्. वस्तुतः एतत् अतीव भवतां पूर्णाहुतिः यः वर्तते, अद्य सरस्वती वसंत पंचमी वर्तते, भगवत्याः सरस्वत्याः अवतार दिवसः वर्तते इति अस्माभिः मन्यते. भवतां या सारस्वत सपर्या वर्तते, सा सपर्या अस्माभिः भगवत्याः सरस्वत्याः श्रीचरणयोः समर्प्यते. भवन्तः बहु सम्यक् एतत् सर्वं कृतवन्तः. अस्माकं अरुण रंजन मिश्र महोदयैः अपि या ये पक्षाः उत्थापिताः तेपि अतीव समीचीनाः पक्षाः आसन्. तथैव अस्माकं कन्नन महोदयैः, ते तु अभिनय पुरस्सरं ते महान्तः कलाकाराः अथवा कलोपासकाः सन्ति. तैः अभिनय पुरस्सरं स्वीयं यत् प्रस्तुतं तेन तु किं वदामः, तादृशः प्रभावः समागतः. एतत् अयम् अत्र वस्तुतः त्रयः निबन्धाः पठिताः. एते वस्तुतः एतेषां त्रयाणामपि अतीव महत्त्वं वर्तते. एतैः प्रमाणितं यत् अस्माकं नाट्यशास्त्रस्य न केवलं संस्कृतनाटकेषु अपितु बहुत्र प्रभावः परिलक्ष्यते, बहुत्र प्रभावः अस्ति. तथैव अहं चिन्तयामि इदानीं किमपि कथनस्य अवसरः नास्ति, विलम्बः वस्तुतः संजातः, किन्तु नाट्यशास्त्रे स्वयमेव प्रतिपादितं वर्तते यत् न तज्ज्ञानं न तच्छिल्पं न सा विद्या न सा कला नासौ योगो न तत्कर्म नाट्येऽस्मिन्यन्न दृश्यते। तेनैव तैः स्वयमेव प्रतिपादितं यत् सर्वत्र नाट्यशास्त्रस्य प्रभावः वर्तते। सर्वत्र नाटकं नाट्यशास्त्रं व्याप्तं वर्तते विश्वस्मिन्नपि विश्वे। तथैव अस्माकं विष्णुधर्मोत्तर पुराणे नाट्यस्य व्याप्ति विषयम् अवलम्ब्य अहं किञ्चिदेव निर्दिश्य विरमामि। एते कला कौशल संप्रयुक्ताः कार्यास्तथा लोक विधान युक्ताः धर्मार्थ कामाद्युपदेशगाश्च हिताय लोकस्य नरेन्द्र चंद्र इत्यादिकम् उक्त्वा तत्र किं किं ज्ञेयम् अस्माभिः। यदि वयम् एतत् सर्वं न जानीमः तर्हि कथं नाट्यस्य पूर्णता न भवितुमर्हति। इति चित्रसूत्रं न जानाति यस्तु सम्यक् नराधिपः प्रतिमा लक्षणं वेत्तुं न शक्यं तेन कर्हिचित् विना तु नृत्यशास्त्रेण चित्रसूत्रं दुर्विधं जगतो निक्रियाकार्या दयोरपि यतो नृप आतोद्यम यो न जानाति तस्य नृत्यं सुदुर्विधम् आतोद्येन विना नृत्यं विद्यते न कथंचन न गीतेन विना सख्यं ज्ञातुम् आतोद्यमच्युत गीत शास्त्र विधानज्ञः सर्वं वेत्ति यथा विधि इति कृत्वा नाट्यशास्त्रस्य महत्त्वम् अथ च अन्य कलाभिः साकं नाट्यशास्त्रस्य कीदृशः सम्बन्धः वर्तते तत्र बहुविस्तरेण विष्णुधर्मोत्तर पुराणे प्रतिपादितम् अस्ति। तद् अस्माभिः अक्षिलक्षीकृतं कन्नन महोदयानां व्याख्याने। तस्य व्याख्यानं वस्तुतः अतीव रम्यमासीत्। तथैव अस्माकं अग्रज प्रवराणां अरुणरञ्जन मिश्र महोदयानां शास्त्रीयं यत् व्याख्यानम् आसीत् तैः सर्वं प्रतिपादितम्। एवमेव वयं यदि पश्यामः तो भारतीय रंगमंचे संस्कृत रंगमंचे नाट्यशास्त्रस्य प्रभावः पदे पदे परिलक्ष्यते। अस्माभिः राष्ट्रीय संस्कृत संस्थाने वसंतोत्सव नाम्ना अथ च कौमुदी महोत्सव नाम्ना कश्चन कार्यक्रमः आयोज्यते प्रतिवर्षं। कदाचित् 20 वर्षेभ्यः अयं कार्यक्रमः चलति। इदानीं कोरोना कारणात् पूर्वस्मिन् वर्षे नाभवत्। तत्र वस्तुतः केरल अस्माकं गुरुवायूर परिसरस्य छात्राः समागच्छन्ति। तेषां नाट्य प्रस्तुतौ नाट्यशास्त्रस्य तथा प्रभावः परिलक्ष्यते। तथैव शृङ्गगिरि परिसरात् तथैव अस्माकं पुरी परिसरात् ये छात्राः आगच्छन्ति क्षेत्रदृष्ट्या कथं वैशिष्ट्यं नाट्यशास्त्रस्य भारतीय रंगमंचे परिलक्ष्यते तद् वस्तुतः अस्माकं संस्थानस्य कार्यक्रमेषु अस्माभिः साक्षात् कृतं। 200 ऊर्ध्वं संस्कृत नाट्यानि अस्माभिः तत्र प्रस्तुतानि। तेषां वीडियो रूपेण अपि केषाञ्चित् उपलब्धिः अस्ति। एवं अस्माकं इयं परंपरा वर्तते। वस्तुतः केरल विश्वविद्यालयस्य संस्कृत विभागेन अयं यः संकल्पः कृतः सः संकल्पः अतीव अभिनन्दनार्हः वर्तते। एते यूट्यूब मध्येपि सर्वं योजयन्तः सन्ति। सर्वेपि छात्राः शोधच्छात्राः प्राध्यापकाः अन्ये च ये विद्वांसः सन्ति ते सर्वे एतत् सर्वं श्रोतुं शक्नुवन्ति। कालान्तरेपि अस्य श्रवणं भवितुमर्हति। एतत् अतीव वस्तुतः अस्मिन् वैज्ञानिके युगे अस्माकं ज्ञानपरम्परायाः प्रसारार्थं अयं महान् प्रयासः संस्कृत विभागेन उन्नीकृष्ण महोदयानाम् अथ च अन्येषां तत्रत्य सहयोगिनां साहाय्येन प्रचलति तन्नूनम् अभिनन्दनार्हं वर्तते। अहं बहु न वदामि यतोहि पादोदधिवादनं जातं। काचित् समीहा तु ममापि आसीत् किन्तु बुभुक्षितैर्व्याकरणं न भुज्यते न पीयते काव्यरसः पिपासुभिः इत्येतद् दृष्ट्या अस्माकं विलम्बः तु अस्त्येव। कालान्तरे कदाचित् पुनः यदा समयः लप्स्यते तदा अहं किञ्चित् पुनः कथयिष्यामि। किन्तु वारं वारम् अस्माकं पक्षतः संयोजक वृन्दानां सर्वेषाम् अभिनन्दनं, विभागस्य अभिनन्दनं, विभागस्य प्रशासन प्रशासन दक्षाः अधिकारिणः सन्ति तेषाम् अभिनन्दनं, कर्मचारिणाम् अभिनन्दनम्। अत्र वस्तुतः अयं महान् कार्यक्रमः भवद्भिः अनुष्ठितः अस्य साफल्यं भवतु इत्येव कामयमानः अहं पुनः पुनः सर्वान् धन्यवादान् विदीर्य विरमामि। धन्यवादाः।
साधु साधु साधु
साधु।
बहु सवनमुक्तम्।
नमो नमः श्री
नमो
गुरुपादुका।
नमः, नमो नमः, नमो नमः।
सप्ताहात्मक सत्रस्य अस्य पञ्चमदिने वसन्तपञ्चमी पुण्यदिने अध्यक्षपदवीम् अलङ्कुर्वद्भ्यः नितरां विश्रुतेभ्यः डॉक्टर प्रोफेसर रमाकान्त पाण्डे महाभागेभ्यः अत्र उपस्थितस्य एकैकस्य पक्षतः तथा केरला विश्वविद्यालयस्य संस्कृत विभागस्य पक्षतः अपि धन्यवादान् सप्रश्रयं व्याहरामि। शान्तिनिकेतनात् स्वीयं प्रबन्धं मण्डितवद्भ्यः विद्वन्मणिभ्यः डॉक्टर अरुण रंजन मिश्रा महाभागेभ्यः केरला विश्वविद्यालयस्य संस्कृत विभागस्य पक्षतः धन्यवादान् समर्पयामि। वयं जानीमः प्राचीनकाले अनन्तपुर्यां केरलेषु अनन्तपुर्याम् आसीत् कश्चन विश्रुतः विश्वविद्यालयः कान्तळ्ळूर् शाला इति प्रथा अपि आसीत्। कान्तळ्ळूर् शालायाः पुनरुज्जीवनाय कटिबद्धाः सन्ति डॉक्टर पी.सी. मुरलीमाधवन महाभागाः। अस्माकं सर्वेषामपि सर्वदा अपि प्रेरणादायकाः च एते महाभागाः। महाभागेभ्यः अपि सहर्षं केरला विश्वविद्यालयस्य संस्कृत विभागस्य पक्षतः कार्तज्ञं व्याहरामि। कथाकेल्याः नाट्यधर्मिताम् अधिकृत्य स्वीयविचारान् मण्डितवद्भ्यः डॉक्टर कण्णन् परमेश्वरन् महाभागेभ्यः अपि कृतज्ञता कुसुमानि समर्पयामि। एवं अत्र अद्य अन्तर्जालीन माध्यमेन समुपस्थितेभ्यः विद्वद्वरिष्ठेभ्यः शोध छात्रेभ्यः अस्माकं सह आचार्येभ्यः इतर कलालयेभ्यः अत्र समुपस्थितेभ्यः अध्यापकेभ्यः संस्कृत प्रणयिभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः अपि सहर्षं सप्रश्रयं च कार्तज्ञं व्याहरामि। बहवः सन्ति अस्माकं प्रेरणादायकाः अत्र दृश्यन्ते। पी.के. माधवन महाभागाः, डॉक्टर नडेशन महाभागाः, डॉक्टर नीलकण्ठन महाभागाः, डॉक्टर जी गंगाधरन नायर महाभागाः इत्येवं बहूनां नामानि वक्तव्यानि सन्ति। तेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः अपि कार्तज्ञं व्याहरामि। अस्याः संगोष्ठ्याः अन्तिमे सुदिने डॉक्टर एन.पी. उन्नी महाभागानां सान्निध्यं भविष्यति। डॉक्टर सी राजेन्द्रन महाभागानां सान्निध्यमपि भविष्यति। एवमेव श्वः पारल सेशन अपि भविष्यति। शोधछात्राणां अध्यापकानामपि पारल सेशन अपि श्वः भविष्यति। प्रातः as usual प्रातः अपि इयं संगोष्ठी अनुवर्तते इत्यपि स्मारयित्वा पुनः 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 अपि सर्वेभ्यः अपि कार्तज्ञम् उक्त्वा विरमामि। शान्तिमन्त्रेण समापनं कुर्मः। सर्वे
भवन्तु सुखिनः,
सर्वे
सन्तु
निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। धन्यवादः। सर्वेपि कृपया एकवारं कैमरा स्विच ऑन कुर्वन्तु इति प्रार्थना। एक स्क्रीनशॉट अपि स्वीकर्तुं शक्यते। कृपया एकनिमिषं कैमरा स्विच ऑन कुर्वन्तु। धन्यवादः। पांडे महोदय। पांडे महोदय।
अहमस्मि।
सभा समाप्ता इत्युच्यते।
भवतः कैमरा ऑन करे।
कैमरा ऑन अस्ति मम। इदानीं सभा समाप्ता इत्येव घोषणा अवशिष्यते।
They want to take a photo from you, a screenshot.
Yes, they have taken, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
सर्वेषां कृते प्रेषयन्तु।
Thank
इदानीं
you.
सभा समाप्यते। पुनर्दर्शनाय धन्यवादः।
धन्यवादाः महोदय। धन्यवादाः।